Vadim, if you haven't checked it out yet, Vadim, you didn't pitch this, but you did a modern day debates with Maddox, who was just so much bullshit, so much gish gallop.
For those who don't know Maddox, I'm pretty sure he's QAnon. He's a creationist, and I was way harsher on the guy than I typically would be in a discussion. And for those, I do say this towards the end of the discussion, but the guy was talking major shit before it even started. He said to me, so I just want to know, do you believe even half of the bullshit that you're about to spew? Because and then he makes the outrageous claim, because I've about like 4 people that I've had debates with on this channel, they've just straight up told me that they don't believe that. So if you get far enough inside, that's how it started. That's kind of why I'm dunking on him as much as I would. Sometimes I'm a little more hands off with that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a portion of the video where, and I'm sorry if this is a little off topic, but I have to mention it, where I confronted him on that. I was like, hey, guy, because I was accused by a super chat of being rude. And I was like, well, just so you know, this started well before this all happened. And I mentioned the claim that he made. And I was like, Maddox, would you like to mention any one of the people who have supposedly said this to you before? And he was just like, I don't want to name names. And then James, the mod, who's always present, I said, James, do you ever recall anyone saying this? This sounds like something that one would recall. Like, do you have any memory of this? And he was just like, he didn't want to get in the middle of it.
Because it was so peaceful up here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Oh my god, we got a wide peepo happy stream right now. Look, that's what we're dealing with, huh? I'll try to fix this as we go along, but welcome everybody. Welcome to Bird Brains. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Completely normal stream today. No problems with technical difficulties or anything else. Nothing will keep us from uncovering the truth in Trump's swamp of lies. That it's actually kind of breaking apart now. Like, I think people were taking it a lot more seriously. You know, people with real motivated reasoning. I'm talking about people in the, you know, that really just could not imagine life without Donald Trump as their president. They have now started to realize that they're gonna have to find a replacement for their copium, right? Because the copium is swiftly running out. There we go, the wide peepo happy stream, awesome. Yeah, we got the copium is almost gone at this point. The copium is there's just they're basically picking it out of the carpet. It's basically not copium anymore that they're smoking, it's dandruff. What they're smoking is dandruff, and
it's copium resin.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
They're scraping the bong for all the remnants of charred copium.
Yeah,
the keef, if you will.
The keef, I don't know, the keef is the good stuff though. The keef is the stuff that like falls off. Anyway, I know entirely too much about this.
Wait, the keef is good.
Yeah, the keef is really good.
Shit.
Yeah,
it is.
I don't know what you all are talking
round
about.
Coming then.
Wait,
round two is coming.
Of course you don't. Of course the lawyer is too clean. What are you pulling a Sam Cedar here?
I don't know what you're talking about. What's Keith?
Have you ever heard of Sam's story about quitting weed?
Who is Sam? I've heard.
Oh,
I'm so
Sam's,
surprised.
Sam like pounds fucking CBD these days.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Sam Cedar always tells this story about how he used to smoke a fuckload of weed, and then he was gonna go to law school, and then he started to go to law school, and then he hated it, and then he decided to go back into comedy. And I'm just like, yeah, we got Sam back.
Well, weed is illegal. It's a controlled substance, so we wouldn't want to break the law.
No,
yeah,
no,
of course,
absolutely
absolutely, completely. It's ridiculous. It's totally illegal everywhere. And
yeah, and
we have a totally legitimate government right now, and yeah, it's amazing.
And all attorneys follow the law completely, right? You know, especially
that's correct.
Especially
no frivolous lawsuits, no ethics violations.
Yeah, especially Alan Dershowitz, right? Alan Dershowitz is probably the cleanest among.
I will not make a single statement about that.
We're not going to talk about Alan Dershowitz today. Luckily, he's not involved in this one. We do have some discussion of Rudy Giuliani. We do have some discussion of our good friend of the VOD, James O'Keefe. Speaking of Keefe, yeah, we've got
nice.
We've got a cast of characters today. This is a real interesting one. So these are like the hardcore Trump, like dishonesty stormtroopers, basically, that came in for this, because this is really gonna ruin people's reputations, except for James O'Keefe, who apparently it doesn't matter how many times he ruins his
trusted
reputation.
source.
I'm honestly surprised that Jacob Wall has not come out with some batshit story.
Me too.
Is Wall? Yeah, is he like under arrest or something? Like he should have been a long time ago.
He was
Because
sanctioned.
what?
He there is a lawsuit. I think.
Hey, so real quick, before we get any further, one, Pisco, you got to reconnect to the whereby your camera's dying, and two, RumourFlies, your audio is dying. So try reconnecting to Discord.
Yeah, we were trying to fix that earlier, and it's just a whole issue with Wi-Fi and 4G. Yes, CACW indeed. It's very, very, very CACW kind of week.
Since we're bringing up technical things very quickly, do you guys get with whereby? Whereby is always like at least 5 shades. I don't know if shade is the right term, but it's just like way brighter than my camera necessarily is, and I have to do all these weird lighting adjustments. So you guys get that, because you guys all look natural right now, and I feel like, well, I guess I adjusted for it as best I can, but I still like all this harsh light on my face.
I know.
I haven't done
Yeah, no, whereby messes with your video settings. So
Okay.
basically, like on my default stream, I have like filters and stuff that are set up to make my lighting look a lot better. But when you go into whereby, it doesn't get any of those because it just pulls raw webcam footage and then it applies its own internal thing. Whereby is kind of a mess.
Yeah,
but,
if they just gave you some controls, like where you could just do brightness and some of that stuff, like and just kind of mess with that. Yeah, you absolutely can on whereby, and that's definitely a problem. But yeah, Vadim, what I do to compensate for that is I just don't turn on my webcam on OBS at all. I just go straight to I set up my lighting and everything in whereby, just to make sure that like it seems to. But I've been there, Vadim. I was on a stream many months ago, and like, I had never been on, I don't know if it was whereby or what, but it was something that you can't mess with. It was something that you can't tweak, and like I looked terrible in that stream and everybody else looked fine, and I got there late and I was just kind of like, oh my god, I'm ugly. I'm really ugly on this stream and I'm not liking it. Yeah, no, I've been there.
Cool.
not getting any audio. RumourFlies.
Gladys? Is that Gladys? Do we have Gladys on the stream? Just kidding. Yeah, it's RumourFlies. RumourFlies was getting some decent audio just before when we talked. So I don't know if you can go back to those settings or if it's just a thing like the weather. Like RumourFlies might only be able to comment when the stars are perfectly aligned or something like that, but we'll try to get that working. So yeah, but the reason that we're talking to RumourFlies, like even despite the technical difficulties, is because RumourFlies actually has been doing some research on the last refuge of the scoundrels that are trying to make this out to be something other than a clear Biden victory. And that is the Dominion system, which if you listen to Republicans, Nancy Pelosi partially owns it. It's from, the components are from China. Like all the bad people have something to do with this Dominion software. It's kind of like it reminds me of the Diebold thing, except it's like a Republican version of that. It's and like, to be fair, there were some issues with the Diebold machinery back in the day, but yeah, like that's their last refuge, and we were hoping to kind of get that, because what we want to give you, chat, is like, let's say that you talk to somebody that's convinced that there was fraud and that like Joseph Biden is like somehow not a legitimate president. The deep state has finally taken over.
Come up and like I just naturally
and I just naturally am like little dudes. Yeah. If you've got like any of those situations in your life, we want to prepare you so that whatever they throw at you, you can ping pong that back. Because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll throw something at you that like it's like, I've never heard of that before. Like, did that happen? Is this a thing? You know, and if you don't read about the Pennsylvania thing, what'll happen is you'll say, look, I'm looking at the article right here. The guy recanted his testimony. And then the Republican will come back to you with, well, guess what? I've got a video right here of him saying, I don't recant my testimony. Boom, liberal owned, right? Right there. And if you go and look at what
happened to me,
you have to watch 2 hours of video to understand why he did recant, what really happened.
Painful video.
Yeah. Basically, he came out with a story. Project Veritas published an affidavit. The Inspector General of the USPS came down, had a conversation with him, said, listen, dude, I don't want to have you out there saying anything that you really don't mean, anything that you're not 100% confident with. So let's walk through this and you tell me exactly what you heard, not what you think they were talking about, which was what Project Veritas went after. And when they did that, he's like, yeah, I guess I didn't really hear them say, let's, you know, fuck with the, let's backdate the votes. Let's backdate, like, he, you know, that never happened, right? So, I mean, that's the facts of the matter. And you have to listen to a 2-hour Project Veritas, like, yeah, that's funny of them to give us the thing to debunk them. But I think they just figured nobody's going to listen to 2 hours of you know, actually, I found it interesting, though.
I mean, they do that all the time, right? Like, that's kind of,
yeah, they'll be like, here's the receipts. And yeah, it's just too much to look at.
Yeah,
are we getting into it?
Yeah, that's part of like Project Veritas. I mean, that's part of a lot of propagandists' approach is to bury things and assume. I mean, hell, one of the best examples of this is Prager University. I know like everybody laughs about PragerU, but the other day on stream, just out of curiosity, we decided to dig through the sources on one of their videos, and one of the sources about halfway down the page was a link to the video that we were watching. So their source was literally, it was a recursive source. And it was just like
of propaganda.
Yeah, it's terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I mean, you would think that with the, I mean, like they raised $136,000 for this guy. Some people are saying, I don't know if it's true that they gave him money aside from that. You would think with all the obvious money to be made, especially if you had a substantial allegation that the U.S. postal workers, not all of whom are left-wing, I could see how they'd be a little pissed at Trump for the things that he's been doing to them, but still, they're not all Dems. You would think that these people, if there was some kind of widespread situation, that they would just take a camera phone pic of maybe, you know, a couple of these postmarked ballots that they're changing, that they were ordered to change. And no, we have nothing of that, even though it would probably be pretty easy to, maybe I'm wrong, to fake that. But yeah, it stretches incredulity so fucking much. By the way, I'm going to just make a few quick comments, and I don't mean to hog time, but I'm not going to be able to be here for a long time. So I just want to throw out a couple things.
Yeah.
Another thing that I just want to point out about the Dominion thing, about all of this, that is just absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, just like what this is how you would stage a, you know, voter fraud. It's like these machines that, you know, caused Biden to win in all these states. They did that, yet they didn't flip 2 states senatorially or two or three states. I don't know what the number is. They would need to have the majority, which would give him so much more control. You know, they were masterminds enough to accomplish a Biden victory, but they couldn't pull off this other easily fucking thing to do.
They gave Biden, they gave Biden a hobbled term, essentially. Like, if he doesn't get the Senate and he's got Mitch McConnell to deal with, he's either going to put out some really bad compromise legislation or nothing at all. And I'm almost thinking nothing at all, because that's like Barack Obama offered Mitch McConnell the head of Social Security on a silver platter. And Mitch McConnell said, I don't want to help the first black president. I don't want to give you a good legacy. I want people to remember you and think that you were, you know, whatever the hell the Republicans think he is. And so, yeah, they've already shown that's a no-go. So, like, I will, let's do the thing where we go around the, and everybody introduces themselves, tells the chat, like, where we can find you and, you know, what you got in the works. So we'll start with DemonMama, who's totally ready for this. Hey.
Yeah, 100% ready. Today's been a little scuffed, but my name is DemonMama. You can find me at DemonMamaLive on Twitch, DemonMama, just that, on YouTube, and my website, DemonMama.com. I do a lot of debate. I consider myself a political edutainer. So if you like fun politics content, you want to come by my stream. We do a lot of fun stuff. We have a hella engaged community. My community is amazing. We have a lot of fun, a lot of debates and stuff. And yeah, you've probably seen me around on some of these panels. So yeah, if you like any of that stuff, you should come by and hang out. My site is having a little bit of errors today, so best bet would be to come hang out at my Discord, which you can find linked on my site.
Yeah, or you could stay right here and watch it on the stream.
Vadim, of course. I mean for later, of course. I'm not trying to tell you to go away from the stream.
Of course. Vadim.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Vadim, also known as HeyItsVadim. Currently, I have a channel that is somewhat known on the YouTube sphere called CreationistCat. It's going to be rebranded to HeyItsVadim rather soon. A lot of the material that I've been doing recently has been through me. The next video that I'm working on is, I don't know if you're familiar with a show called The Boys, but the loose title is The Boys and American Exceptionalism, and it traces themes of American exceptionalism throughout the show and through the eyes of key characters within the show. Really psyched about that. It's going to be an epic video, and I'm having fun working on it. If you are wondering what my channel is like, it's sort of like lefty / pop culture commentary through what I would call sort of a Adult Swimish type lens. It's irreverent, weird, really truly needs just to be experienced to get it. If you guys are a fan of dunking on the quartering, our most recent video does that. I'd say check that out. You can find me at Vadim Newquist on Twitter. And other than that, thanks for having me on. I think I've mentioned anything that's worthy, relevant of saying. Oh, last thing, one real quick. I don't have a Twitch channel. I probably will sometime soon. I've been kind of like a little sluggish trying to get that together. But I do enjoy talking politics and debating and stuff like that. I've been getting more into it. And it's something that I'd kind of like to do a little bit on the side while doing my epic videos.
Yeah, you know, we can't do YouTube shout outs, mods, but if you want to, you can grab their YouTube links. Grab mine, DemonMama's, and Vadim's. We all have YouTubes that you should all go and check out. And I'll find out if Pisco or RumourFlies have got anything up on YouTube, and we'll put theirs out too. But yeah, remember, sometimes people are on YouTube, sometimes people are on Twitch. Vadim is actually, you know, one of the original, was in the skeptic community back in the day, was a big player in BreadTube. You've seen CreationistCat. Even if you don't realize it, if you watch one of Vadim's videos, you're going to remember. You've seen it at some point because it's just universal. It's really funny stuff.
Can I thank you very much.
Yeah. There's another very thing kind. For you to,
I do want to say very quickly, yes. See, in fact, I'm going to make a video about it. I have sort of like this, I don't know. I can't help but feel a little cringe these days when I hear the term skeptic, because basically the YouTube community and more flushed the term down the toilet. So yes, I at one time considered myself a skeptic. I still do, according to what I believe a skeptic to be. However, I never call myself that because I feel like there's so much baggage attached to it, and I just want anyone watching who's like, "Ooh, skeptic." Just know I hear you. I hear you. Okay.
Not all skeptics, chat, and yeah, that's the whole thing. Like, yeah, we've kind of been through this a little bit. Like, you know, back in the day, they were the creationists on YouTube. They found YouTube. They're like, this will be a great platform for us to convince everybody of the new Earth theory or whatever. Then the skeptics came in, just kicked the shit out of them, and the skeptic community, after they kicked the shit out of the creationists, they sort of broke up. There was a side that was like, hey, feminists, let's go after feminists next, and there was another side that was like, whoa, what the fuck? What are you? Who even are you people, right? So it was like, you know, there was the skeptic community got to know itself a little bit better, and that's when it split. And Vadim's one of the good ones. So we love you, Vadim, and we love that representation that, yeah, skeptics are, you know, like a lot of skeptics are good people. There's plenty of examples of other people like that, and we don't want to slime you with the, you know, all the cringe that the rest of the skeptic community has posted. So yeah, good to have you here again. And Pisco95.
Yeah, happy to be here. So I'm Pisco. I'm a third-year law student. I stream a lot of politics and law adjacent stuff, and I'm really interested to get into these the intricacies of these court cases because I think they're fascinating and ultimately futile.
Oh my god, yeah. Indeed. Okay, and yeah, so we can find you on Twitch. Is that where you do most of your
Twitch,
streaming?
Yeah, all on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pisco95. And if you go to my Discord, I have like some of the old debates up there that I was in, but I don't really keep VODs or anything. But yeah, if you want to follow me for law adjacent stuff, you can do that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna bully you until you start putting your VODs up on YouTube. That's my new mission. I'm adding that.
Get
to my
everybody
mission.
on YouTube.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we'll do. And then we could all like put each other on our lists and stuff.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Can I ask Pisco a real quick question?
Go ahead.
Sure.
I was wondering, have you ever had anything close to a debate with Bastiat? Because I'm not totally familiar with a lot of streamers, but you're, I guess, the only political people besides Riley Grace, who isn't officially a lawyer at the moment.
Neither am I. I'm a third-year law student, so I'm going to take the bar this summer. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I was just wondering if you had any discussions with him. I would find that interesting.
So I've never discussed with him on a stream, but we've talked outside of it, but we haven't had one sort of published. And I was in a discussion on the Hippy Dippy with Dylan Burns with Riley, which was a lot of fun. And I've talked with I've talked with like Lecture Fan through chat, but that's all of the law-related context.
Was I in that one? The one that you were in with Riley?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. They all start blending together.
Yeah, they do.
Anyhow, go on. No comment. I apologize.
No worries. Yeah. No, it's good to make connections and stuff. Yeah, no, definitely check out Pisco95. I love your content. I think we first met through Dylan Burns, and I definitely with this deal, I wanted to bring you back here to tap into your legal expertise. So
I'm not a lawyer, but I'm happy to comment what I know.
Right. Just so everybody knows, nothing that Pisco says should be interpreted by anyone as legal advice. Okay, especially unless it's Donald Trump. You can interpret. No, just kidding. Because it's probably better than the legal counsel he's getting. Oh my God! At least you wouldn't schedule an event at a landscaping company that's between a crematorium and a sex shop, right?
Well, I wouldn't say strictly speaking that was a legal event, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
It was something.
I thought we weren't going to be doing the necrophilia discourse today. Now we're talking about sex shops and crematoriums. What the fuck?
That did get us right into there. Holy shit! I'm usually not that kind of streamer. I swerve those topics, even though they're great for engagement and stuff. RumourFlies.
Can you?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So RumourFlies may be having some like robot issues today. The goddess of Discord is very fickle for RumourFlies right now. So try saying something. Let's see if it.
Are we?
Rumor, something that might benefit you is if you turn off your video in Whereby, you'll be able to just focus on Discord. Video takes a crazy amount of bandwidth, so if you're on 4G, consider dropping your Whereby video so that we can hear you through Discord.
Yeah, that might be that might help. We'll give that a try really quick. Yeah, because we definitely wanted to.
You can hear me?
The system is down.
Yeah, it's Gladysing. It's definitely in some Portal 2 territory right now, unfortunately. Hopefully Pisco will get this worked out, because like I don't know if the rest of you have.
Excuse you. I'm worked out.
Yeah.
I exited
Oh,
where
Pisco, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't say. I meant to say RumourFlies.
It's all
Yeah,
good. No worries.
yeah. So,
Awesome.
yeah, like, but like, so have anybody else heard about this? It's called the Dominion software. It's or
No, I
not
haven't.
software. I think it might even be a voting machine. This is the
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear
Okay,
you.
awesome.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you're audible. So, RumourFlies, go ahead and let us know who you are, where we can find you, and what you got going on.
Yeah, so I'm Ryan from the RumourFlies podcast, and I am a chemist and electrical engineer, and we generally like to look at modern-day myths and misconceptions through the scope of science. It's cut now, isn't it?
It was really good for a second. It was really,
Okay.
it was really well
You're good
behaved.
for like a
Almost
good
nothing.
10 seconds.
All right, misconceptions, science, we do a lot of that. And, okay. So we've been focusing on facts and QAnon stuff, and now voter fraud.
So some deep dives there, in addition to like some really cool knowledge of like of science too. I took a little bit of chemistry, so I could talk some shop, but I got the feeling that your expertise go well beyond my limited understanding of. I think I only did chemistry too, so I'm
It's a big field.
Oh yeah, God, yeah. There's so much to. Yeah, there's so many different specialties that I didn't even touch on. But yeah, no, it's good to have everybody here today. We're trying something out with a slightly smaller stream, hoping that gives all of our experts today a chance to sort of dive into. So today, feel a little bit more free to take up some time, take up some space, especially if you've got knowledge about a certain aspect of what we're looking at, a certain whistleblower situation, a certain allegation of voter fraud. This is your day to go off, because we kind of kept it small on purpose, and we made sure to ask people that on the stream that have been following this stuff, because I think a lot of people disengaged, and rightly so. There's not a lot to any of these claims, right? There's no like that might actually overturn the results of the election, kind of thing. So in a way, there's no reason to look at it. It's only if you're the kind of person that when the right wingers tell you like Biden stole the election and here's how, you like to say this is how you're wrong. And Vadim, if you haven't checked it out yet, Vadim, you didn't pitch this, but you did a modern day debates with Maddox, who was just so much bullshit, so much gish gallop.
For those who don't know Maddox, I'm pretty sure he's QAnon. He's a creationist, and I was way harsher on the guy than I typically would be in a discussion. And for those, I do say this towards the end of the discussion, but the guy was talking major shit before it even started. He said to me, so I just want to know, do you believe even half of the bullshit that you're about to spew? Because and then he makes the outrageous claim, because I've about like 4 people that I've had debates with on this channel, they've just straight up told me that they don't believe that. So if you get far enough inside, that's how it started. That's kind of why I'm dunking on him as much as I would. Sometimes I'm a little more hands off with that stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a portion of the video where, and I'm sorry if this is a little off topic, but I have to mention it, where I confronted him on that. I was like, hey, guy, because I was accused by a super chat of being rude. And I was like, well, just so you know, this started well before this all happened. And I mentioned the claim that he made. And I was like, Maddox, would you like to mention any one of the people who have supposedly said this to you before? And he was just like, I don't want to name names. And then James, the mod, who's always present, I said, James, do you ever recall anyone saying this? This sounds like something that one would recall. Like, do you have any memory of this? And he was just like, he didn't want to get in the middle of it. But so there's a highly dishonest guy. He was just throwing out all these numbers and speculating on them. He had no clear evidence. I do wish I had hammered a little bit more. There are 2 things that I could have done better. I could have taken control of the conversation at certain points. and brought up cases that I knew of the voter fraud that were completely debunked. And then I also could have just hammered just a little bit more. I did say this throughout, but I could have said it more. Okay, if what you're asserting is actual evidence, how come authorities are not acting on it? How come they're not pursuing it? How come Donald Trump is, I mean, he's brought up some rather ridiculous things inside his suits. So how come he's not using this inside of a suit if this is as strong evidence as you mentioned it to be? So, you know, it was what it was. I kind of was mostly taking the piss out of him at a certain point rather than kind of like really engaging with his point seriously. But I feel like I did a decent job, you know, especially with my opening statement. I do want to say this. Sorry to again, I'm on unlimited time, so I hope you guys don't mind me.
We feel you.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to, I think at the opening, it should be said that there are probably more, but I know of Riley did a great presentation, actually, Riley Grace Rashong,
yeah.
on how to rebut these claims. And she made a master document. You can go to her. I recommend subbing to her. You can go to her channel, watch the video. She has the doc available. It has over 80 scholarly articles that have been conducted mostly over the course of the past 10 years, mostly recent, that just really highlight how incredibly difficult it is to accomplish voter fraud, and two, how there are all these safeguards in place to make sure that it doesn't happen. And in these very few instances, we're talking about like literally like 0.0000007% of the population, like 10 out of millions, like 20 to like hundreds of millions of votes cast, like we'll get genuine voter fraud. It just does not have any effect on votership. For some reason, people are saying like, okay, well, that doesn't matter. This is a different election. And he was trying to make the case that because of the fact that COVID is going on, that is an exception and makes us more susceptible to voter fraud. And I never understood, like I asked him to explain why that would be. And he, in my opinion, never mounted anything close to a case as to why that would be. So yeah, major thing that I am saying, takeaway here should be that there is robust literature showing just how little of a deal it is, how you know, it's incredibly difficult to do. And then last thing I'll say is she also discusses within her video certain legal cases, mostly from Fifth Circuit courts, that have also noted how exceptionally rare and how little of an impact it has on our elections. So people should know that going in.
Did he bring up Benford's law at all?
He might have, you know, at a certain point, like a lot of the things that he was bringing up just kind of like melted together,
Yeah.
you know. It's a little difficult to, one, I mean, he was doing all these data dumps where he was showing me really quickly, like look at this number right here, and it corresponds to this number, blah, and then everything would go across the screen super quickly. No way to evaluate it. Have no fucking clue where it comes from. Maybe the numbers were correct. I think in some cases maybe they were, but there were logical explanations for them that I just, you know, I couldn't come up with on the fly. And you know, at a certain point, when you're just bombarded with this, my brain went into malaise mode, you know, which is why I'm saying I probably at a certain point should have taken the power away from him by like saying, okay, well, let's talk about these supposed fraud cases right here that I know of that have in fact been completely debunked.
Right.
And I did mention some of those in my opening argument, but I didn't go into any of them subsequent to that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm gonna actually, like, if you don't mind, I might stream that debate and just go in and like point by point debunk everything. This he was just he was gish galloping, Chad. If you've never, I'm sure everybody in this panel's experienced this before, where somebody just throws stuff at you too fast, and it's like whack-a-mole. You knock down one argument, and they're like, "But what about this?" And you knock down that argument, and they're like, "But what about this?" And they're just like all over the place because, like you said, he doesn't want you to drill down on any single one of his points because all of them, if you get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. And
when we get into it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into it. Pisco, like, you look like you're about to enchant something in Minecraft. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you play Minecraft?
Enchant something in Minecraft? No, I've never played Minecraft.
In Minecraft, when you enchant items, you get a bonus if you're around a bunch of bookcases. But I'm guessing you're in a library or something, right?
So I'm in an office.
An office.
It's not my office,
okay.
But
it's beautiful. It's very, yeah.
I had a quick question. I had a quick question. Vadim, is this the Maddox from like the greatest website on the internet?
No, it's a completely different Maddox. A lot of people mistake him for that guy, and no, it's not him. It's a less popular Maddox than that dude. So Maddox has the Maddox that you're talking about definitely has some shitlord tendencies, but he's not this stupid or like this level of dumbassery by
I was
any.
like, when I heard Creationist, I was like, wait, really? I was like, damn, I lost track of some of the old internet people, but holy shit.
I should have mentioned that because a lot of people just assume that that's him.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, I was trying to resolve the person that I'd seen a long time ago with the person that was there. But yeah, it sounds like he's just benefiting from that guy's name recognition, if nothing else, which is too bad. But yeah, no, it was really shitty. Like he was super bad faith and just, trying to rely on hitting, like you said, overwhelming you with too many a target rich environment, which is kind of a Trumpian thing if you think about it. Like the way that Trump won in the first place was that like he'd have a scandal that would sink any normal politician, and like less than a week later there'd be another scandal which would come along and suck all the oxygen up, and now we're forgetting about the grab him by the pussy and we're on to this one now, and now we're on, like, it was like the same sort of thing. There's nothing that you can drill down on, and I think Hillary's response was just like, I'll just go for everything. And that's the wrong response. That's allowing Donald Trump to sleep on a bed of nails. You know what I'm saying? The way that the bed of nails works is that like there's not much of your weight on each nail, so you don't actually get penetrated by the nails. And that was what was going on with Trump. There was no weight to the attack on any of his bullshit, and so none of it stuck. That's how he became the Teflon Don, at least for one term. But yeah, no, I'm so glad that we didn't have a repeat. I was one of those people that got a little bit deja vu when the election results started to come in, but I also was expecting a red mirage. So like, I was kind of what I was worried though is that like he would do his thing where he says I'm the winner, and somehow people would believe him, or somehow he'd get momentum, or
there's a great deal of right-wing hacks who watch that channel. There's a lot of religious nuts, and then there's also just a lot of conspiracy nuts, and then there's just reactionary right-wing nuts who tune into that channel. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have a fair share of left-wing fans as well, but they exist. So yeah, you did have a lot of people. It was funny, the things that, maybe this is not that important, but I was like wearing a Run the Jewels shirt, Run the Jewels.
I saw that. Yeah.
Hip hop duo, and tons of people in the chat just like, Run the Jewels sucks. Just knocking on me for anything that of course I get shit for the glasses all the time. I did mention what you said about whack-a-mole. I said exactly that within my opening statement. I said, look, here are a few of the cases that I will debunk, and but I'm not going to attempt, nor do I think I should be on the hook to debunk every single claim, because when you have events like this, you just have they're popping up a mile a minute, or maybe faster than that, and there's just too many to keep on top of. And you have to ask yourself again, why are legal authorities not, who I mentioned then and I'll mention now, tend to lean right wing, why are they not pursuing these cases if it's such compelling evidence of voter fraud? And why are they not being brought up in these suits that I mean, perhaps we'll see Trump use some of these things in the future, but he hasn't as of yet. And so it's just, it was just really what he was doing was, for the most part, I mean, some of it was appealing to actual conspiracy theories, but a lot of it was like, hey, look at these numbers right here. That looks weird, doesn't it? Doesn't that look weird?
That was the Benford stuff. Yeah.
And a lot of it was easily, sorry, I'll Pisco, I'll let you talk in 1 second. A lot of it was just easily accountable by the fact that we know that a lot of the votes were done by mail-in and they were counted later. And most of those who voted through mail-in were Dems. So it's pretty easily explainable by a lot of the things he brought up by that alone.
Pisco?
Yeah, so I just wanted to actually I'm glad that we all kind of started with the same base and perspective, that a lot of these claims are probably frivolous and not based on anything. But I think it's important for people who are watching and participating in our democracy and our conversations to have some working idea of what is being alleged here and how you can go best with addressing these points. So I tend to see the kind of complaints that are arising in two sort of boxes. One is kind of outright accusations of voter fraud and illegal activity. This is ballot stuffing. This is backdating sort of ballots. This would be changing ballots or wrongfully setting aside ballots, anything not in accordance with the law, which of course I think everyone here and everyone in any sort of working and sane democracy would totally repudiate and condemn in the strongest possible terms. The question we have to ask about that basket of complaints is, to what extent does it exist? I think that no one here would deny, nor would we expect, for these claims to be at zero. Why? Just the sheer number of people who are engaged in the voting process. There are going to be illegal acts on the part of voters and on the part of administrators of voting systems. That, I think, it isn't hard to suppose and to think that there's going to be some level of illegal ballots.
Well, that's
right?
the kind of thing that like we see every single year, and it's never an amount that could swing an election. It's never a huge thing.
Sure.
But like, yeah, it's the same stuff that we see every year. That's what the Republicans have been trying to do sometimes, is like portray stuff that is normal, that is expected, as being divergent. Like we've never, seen this before, and kind of counting on like the ideas that oh my God, there was something that Vadim was touching on that I wanted to touch on that was really disingenuous about the whole Veritas situation, but I'll get back to that in a second.
Go for it, Pisco. I've talked a lot.
Sure. I was just going to say, so on the question of fraudulent, illegal, that basket of complaints, I think everyone, including those on the right, have to be pushed to a position where what level is acceptable. Certainly some level is unacceptable. But if it's 10 votes, are you prepared to invalidate the results of an election on the basis of 10 votes? Surely not. And that's not how courts have been quick to respond to these claims. They'll throw out the particular votes potentially that are at issue. The question is there ever a base under which to invalidate the entire election or some massive quantity of votes based on these allegations? The second basket of complaints that I'll reference, and then we can sort of get into them, is complaints about legally changed metrics and functions of the administration of the voting system. This would be something like the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania, with approval of the Pennsylvania state courts, extending the deadline of when to receive mail-in ballots. That is a process that is ostensibly legal. And the question is whether that ostensibly legal practice is good policy and whether it really is legal under the Constitution. Those are two different complaints, and we should be careful not to conflate those two, because one is alleging like outright fraudulent conspiracy, and the other is perhaps a genuine complaint, though I think it's meritless, about the fundamental legality of the action at hand. So with that,
it's a whole situation of also just trying to throw everything at the wall and see what can stick, just to invalidate
Right.
any sort of thing in the future. This is going to keep happening. This is going to be even worse in 2 years from now, because now we have a whole Dominion voting system thing going on, which we can definitely get into. I spent like all last night trying to deal with that shit. But just something I just want to say on Veritas, we're talking about that. Something that nobody's mentioned is that, do you think the investigators didn't talk to people that Richard Hawkins?
Yes.
Alleged committed this fraud.
You're breaking up.
Oh my God, you were so good for a second. Yeah. No, like the in terms of like, the fraud allegations with Veritas and with the supposed whistleblower. So essentially it was God, it's a
full
recant. It would be the easiest thing to cross-examine in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You say if you're on trial.
That's
what's that?
Looking to them too. Damn.
Yeah, no, it's bad again. You were like I said, it's just like when the clouds clear. It's when the clouds clear we can hear you, but then the clouds come back and it's bad. But like we got some good stuff out of what you were saying. But yeah, like it's the kind of stuff that keeps on happening with this Veritas thing is just that they're trying to portray this as like they'll try to say that the recant was debunked, and what happened was this guy made an affidavit with Project Veritas. He's not, he's not a dumb guy, but he's not a really smart guy. He's not super savvy.
I don't think he's smart at all.
He's not smart. Yeah, he's an idiot, but he's not like worse than most Trump voters or anything like that.
I think he's much worse.
Okay, he's worse than everybody. Okay, he's either really stupid or he's middle, depending on whether you trust Pisco or me.
No,
but
you're
yeah,
right.
Regardless of his intelligence and stuff, he got used by Project Veritas. They had him sign an affidavit that basically forced him to take everything that he had assumed about the situation, everything that he had interpreted from what he heard, and make the statement about that. My boss and somebody else were talking about backdating ballots, was what the Project Veritas thing said. When the Postmaster General's Inspector General came and talked to him, like this actually really, if you have 2 hours to kill, watch this on the Project Veritas site. They put it up themselves. I think they illegally recorded it too. I think you're not supposed to, this was an investigation, right? You're not supposed to record that, but they put it up and you can hear it. And basically what he's doing is he was walking it through here and he's like, now you said this, was this something that you assumed, or did you actually hear them say these words? And every single time he was like, no, I didn't hear them say the words. I heard them say this word, and that word, but I drew the connection between those words. I made the interpretation. He's like, all right, so your final statement then is that, like, you heard these words, but you didn't actually hear them say, like, let's backdate or whatever Veritas was trying to push on him. So this guy, like, did him a favor, as far as I'm concerned, as far as, like, having his story actually hold up and stuff like that, giving him a story that didn't seem super sketchy. But, like, what he's trying to do, what Veritas is trying to do now is say that, like, they want the affidavit to count. They don't care what goes to court because they know they're not going to win. They don't care about putting out a strong allegation in court. So the allegation that went forward to court wasn't that, like, there was, that people were talking about backdating. It was that, I heard a couple words between these two people, and what the court does with that is says, that's like less than hearsay. You don't even know what you heard. Like, that's nothing.
Affidavit right now.
You have
an affidavit saying that you, Irene, DemonMama, Pisco, and Vadim were talking about voting twice right before we went onto the stream. I heard all of you say it, and I'm going to I'm going to get it notarized today. So just know that, okay?
Yeah.
He's going to court.
So what he's doing, what he's doing is saying something different in public than what he says to the actual, to the court, essentially through the affidavit. And that's the trick of what they're doing. They want to make a very strong claim to the public and a very weak claim to the courts, because they're not going after the courts. They're not really trying to do this. All they care about is the court of public opinion. That's pretty much what the Project Veritas is about. And it's amazing how many people with motivated logic, admittedly, that they fool every single time they come out and lie. They've got a track record of this. Every single time they come out, they lie about somebody, they get caught. Everybody's like, whoa, that was really bad. I can't believe that we canceled Acorn based on this bullshit. And then the next time it comes out, it's like, oh, well, we better look at the Project Veritas stuff because that might be a real allegation. It's like, how many times does James O'Keefe have to cry wolf before we realize that he's a bad faith actor?
I think they really need to look into the GoFundMe donors, like subpoena GoFundMe and see what donors were contributing to that campaign.
Well, also, but keep in mind. So a couple of things here, and then I want to give room for DemonMama because I know she's been waiting. So one is the levels of hearsay. So there is a hearsay, for those of you who don't know, the definition of it is an out-of-court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. What does this mean? In the context of what's going on, it would be that I heard so-and-so say that we were dating ballots. Therefore, I'm using that to prove that they did in fact backdate ballots. Now, you could probably get through that on what's known as an opposing party statement. That's an exception to the hearsay rule, and so you might be able to get that in. But the problem is that the evidence isn't there. You see this person who would be easily impeachable for prior inconsistent statements on the fact that he's changed his story within the Inspector General interview multiple times, completely different from the affidavit that was given through the lawyers of Project Veritas. And what you have here is just not a very credible witness. So even if you could get through the hearsay exception, I think this wouldn't be allowable. And I think nocommentchick is right on the money. Or sorry, wouldn't be credible. Nocommentchick is right on the money. This isn't intended to be a litigation tool. It's intended to be a public relations tool.
So, like, DemonMama, do you have something to say real quick?
I just had two quick things that I wanted to touch on. The first one is that with regards to Project Veritas in particular, I cannot recommend enough the series by Timba on Toast on YouTube that documents Project
I'm in
Veritas.
that video.
Yeah,
Nice.
I do the voice of James O'Keefe here and there.
It's really, really fantastic. I think it's like a 3-parter by the end of it or something.
It's a super deep 3-parter, and every part is like 2 hours, I think. It's huge. Yeah, if you want to know everything.
It's a really deep dive. Yeah, it's a documentary, basically. I would say
very well done. He does great work.
Yep. Yeah. And it basically documents Project Veritas's previous endeavors, which should serve to discredit the organization as a whole. Project Veritas is not an honest organization. Their entire purpose is to essentially serve the Republican Party and the Republican Party's goals, with a very, very thin veneer of like seeming legitimacy. Their investigations are always incredibly spurious, and they often endanger many of the people that they rope into their what I would consider basically scams. They're a horrible organization. They've hurt a lot of people, and their only goal seems to be to push the Republicans' agenda forward in the country. So I would highly recommend, if you don't know about Veritas, watch that series. It's a great watch. It's documentary quality, genuinely. And then the second thing I wanted to comment on here is that all of this for people who aren't necessarily able to plug into the legal parts of this, what I think that the important takeaway is that none of this is intended to be legally rigorous. The goal is to instill a legitimacy crisis in the American election system, and not a reasonable doubt of legitimacy. There is no, on these fronts, there's all kinds of things that you could say, oh, there's problems with the Electoral College that can be demonstrated. These things can be demonstrated with evidence and arguments. There is no argument being made here. They are making as many spurious claims as possible in order to attempt to delegitimize the election with a specific motivated goal. And that goal is to continue the power of Donald Trump and, by extension, the Republican Party. And it should be seen as that. This is an attempt to create out of thin air a legitimacy crisis while ignoring actual problems and actual critiques that could be levied at the American election system.
And DemonMama, we called it on Prime's panel the other week. Do you remember that, when we said that Trump would do everything in his power to try to delegitimize, including but not limited to the election?
Yep, that was I gotta say, we were fucking staring into the crystal ball with that one.
It's a demoralization thing too, though. like it's them trying to
absolutely.
get us to do this mental calculus where we're thinking, how can they shave off 2 or 3 electoral votes to the point where we feel like we're a little bit unsafe? And then Project Veritas goes in, and they're amazing at the way they frame things. Now, the one thing that this Richard Hawkins guy said he was very confident of was that there were 2 boxes. There was one of ballots that were dated on November 3rd, and there was one that was November 4th. Then they said he doesn't know what happened to that afterwards. Everything that he said up to that point was mundane. It's just the question that leads you to bring in this thought in your head. It's a very easy thing to do to make something nefarious when it happened in literally every other USPS office in the entire United States. It's just this guy said he heard 2 people talking outside. I don't even know how to go much more into the hearsay because obviously the investigators talked to his higher ups as well, and they didn't have we don't have that video or recorded evidence, which I don't even know is legal in the first place.
What he alleged. So I just want to stop here. Even taking him at his word, take for granted that he heard the words he heard. According to what he revealed to the inspector generals, none of that would be evidence that something wrong was happening.
Right.
What he heard was something to the effect of ballots on the 4th or 3rd, ballots on the 5th. And he couldn't, first of all, he changed his wording multiple times, and it's all different from the affidavit. But that isn't evidence that they were backdated. It's not. I'm sorry to say. If they had said, you should backdate this, it would be hearsay, and perhaps there'd be an exception, but it would be some evidence that they'd backdated. But hearing something 4th, something 5th isn't evidence.
DemonMama, did you watch the Vosh video on this yet?
Yeah, I did. I also actually watched quite a few videos on this topic. I think Vosh's video was fantastic because he actually like goes through and adds a lot of entertainment value to an otherwise incredibly boring video. Veritas's video is remarkably boring, in my opinion. So if you're interested in this topic, Vosh's video on where he watches the actual footage and commentates on it, super, super interesting. Also, I mean, there's been a lot of content creators doing good stuff on here, and I will give a shout out to Destiny on one of these as well.
Yep.
Destiny watched some of the interviews that Rudy Giuliani has been doing as well, in which Rudy Giuliani refers to how finding fraudulent votes as we need to find this many in order for Donald Trump to win, which is a horrific way to go about investigating fraud. Then again, of course, it plays directly to the point that Pisco and I were making the other night and are sort of saying here, which is that which is the idea that that they're just attempting to delegitimize this with only one goal in mind, which is to empower Donald Trump. When you are going in, when all that you care about in finding fraud is finding enough fraudulent votes to make your candidate win, you don't care about fraud. You don't care about fraud at all.
By the way, the people.
It's also not helpful that a lot of the cases that have already been thrown out, I think we're at like 15 or 16 at this point. Some of those were Trump-appointed judges, like fresh Trump-appointed judges. So you can't say it's just a coordinated effort. It's people actually following the law and saying we have nothing or you have nothing.
If that's the deep state, that's the deep state, then everything's the deep. You know, if those judges that Trump appointed himself are the deep state, then everyone's the deep state. Like it's ridiculous.
They even decided to ask the Biden campaign to prove that there wasn't fraud from one of the articles that I've read.
That's not going to stand scrutiny. I just wanted to mention that Rumor made a really great point that the kinds of things that are happening in these lawsuits are consistent. Mm-hmm. One is the hearsay problem. So in another lawsuit in Michigan, someone said, I heard from a couple workers that I haven't identified, that I don't know who those workers are or when they said this, that trucks from out of state were coming in to drop things off. One is, first of all, you didn't see it yourself, so you have no personal knowledge. You're relying on, so the affidavit itself is hearsay because the affidavit is an out-of-court statement. It hasn't been cross-examined. We haven't had a chance to test its validity in front of a fact finder. That's one. The second level of hearsay would be, well, the affidavit says that I overheard someone say that trucks from out of state were coming in to drop things off at the office. That's the second level of hearsay. And then even if you grant, if there's an exception for both those levels of hearsay, it's not wrong to rent trucks from out of state. There's no evil or nefarious implication that you can draw from that conclusion, even if it were true. So these are the kind of acts, the hearsay, the lack of personal info, and the lack of necessary malicious conclusion that you can draw that's consistent throughout all the lawsuits.
Yeah. So what I wanted to, what I was mentioning. Vadim, you've got limited time here. What did you want to say?
Yeah, I wanted to highlight again. It's in line with what I said before about how if you really look at what they did do, and if this was if there was tampering and fraud, what they chose not to do, it's in line with that. There's more things to point out, like for instance, like there are all these cases that people are bringing up where that are very very paltry. It's like really just like 2 or 3 people, like they witnessed a very small amount of voter fraud. Like why would any of these things matter if Pelosi actually had access to all of these voting machines? Like you wouldn't have to go through all these methods of voter fraud in order to achieve it. That's one thing. And granted, these are kind of, I guess, presumptions, speculation, but I think it's pretty reasonable presumption and speculation. The other thing is that I did mention the fact that they didn't flip Democratic or rather, sorry, senatorial races. In some cases, there were razor thin margins. They easily could have done that if they had the power to do this otherwise. But then also it bears mentioning that there are lots of other down ballot candidates who in the states that Biden won did go to Republicans, and they're contesting him winning, yet not these other people. It really makes no lick of sense when you put all these things together. It's just like it's like brain spaghetti.
Doesn't pass the smell test, right? Yeah. It's very off. So like the reason I was asking DemonMama about the Vosh video, and Pisco, maybe you can speak to this. Vosh pointed out something really interesting, which was that when you sign an affidavit, if that turns out to be doesn't stand up under cross-examination, the consequences of that are much less than the consequences of lying in court. And so Vosh was kind of harping in on the fact of the difference of what they were willing to say in the Project Veritas.
Come up and like I just naturally.
Oh my God, little dudes. The Project Veritas, affidavit, was totally different. And what Vosh was saying is that like the stuff that they're saying in the Veritas affidavit is stuff that they would never ever go to court with. Because that's real, like, legal consequences. Then you get perjury charge.
Well, a couple things here. So one is, while I'm fine referring to it as the Veritas affidavit, let's be clear here. Veritas didn't make the affidavit.
I thought they helped him.
They wrote it.
Yeah.
It's not their affidavit.
Oh, I see. It's not them on the line. Yeah. Good point.
So, and that's also true of the GoFundMe. Veritas didn't start that GoFundMe because here's a problem, right? It's his affidavit. He is attesting under penalty of perjury that everything he's saying is true. If it turns out that is not true, one is, while there are different states have different rules, of course, and things are differently, and I'm not giving legal advice, there are ways you can amend affidavits, so it's not as and obviously I think this would be like small pickings. I don't think a prosecutor wants to take this case. Like, first of all, like, what's the point? Like, that's kind of thing. But he could be prosecuted. Maybe it's worth it. But consider this. Consider that we find out that this is a total and complete lie. He fabricated on it or something like that. If he's lying to induce people to donate money to him, that sounds like a fraud.
And I think that from what I've heard, GoFundMe did put a hold on this, right?
They put a hold on it. And who is liable if this happens? Not Project Veritas.
Oh no, for sure. Yeah, like I think
have some kind of agency relationship.
DemonMama.
And that's why that's one of the things that drives me wild about Project Veritas, and that why I try to tell people that not only are they like a malignant propaganda outlet, but also they put the legal damage on the people that they victimize, the people that they bring in to verify things, they make sure that if anything goes wrong, it will be that person. In fact, they could probably find a way to even legally themselves target their own witnesses, their own people that they bring in. I mean, as I
defame them or something.
yeah, or say like, oh yeah, like they lied to us and it's caused, and we reported
Yeah.
on this, and oh my God, they're so
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
No one should ever touch Project Veritas. Like, I want to tell
But they
people, like,
will.
you know this statement, like, never talk to the cops without a lawyer present? Just never talk to Project Veritas. If you meet James O'Keefe, just remember that chances are every conversation he's going to be trying to find a way to sue the fuck out of you or something. Just don't talk to them. They are toxic in every single way.
Yeah. So this is what the Postmaster General, Inspector General of the USPS was pointing out to the guy, was that, like, listen, if like, I'm not here to tell you politically what to do. I'm not here to tell you that Project Veritas is bad. I just want you to understand that you're useful to them, that the reason that they're helping you with this stuff is because you are making them money, and that their interest in you is directly and discreetly, like, only related to the money that you're gonna make them, and that, like, you know, you don't need to trust them to they might be putting you at jeopardy, just like DemonMama said, both with the GoFundMe and with the affidavit. So Pisco, I wanted to get into, Bosch seemed to think that if the affidavit would not have, you know, legal criminal consequences for you if it was it actually could. Okay, so maybe you understand this better than.
Well, it depends on the state, right? So every state might have its own laws with respect to affidavits, but typically an affidavit is signed under a penalty of perjury. And if they find out that you intentionally lied on of course, it's a big thing to prove that you intentionally lied or you were wrongful on purpose.
Yeah, intent's hard to,
a mens rea requirement there, but absolutely, if you lie on purpose, you can be held criminally liable. And of course, you can't hold James O'Keefe or Project Veritas or their lawyers criminally liable for creating the affidavit. You sign on the line, you attest that you agree with everything, you incorporated everything they said, and you saying, well, no, I actually didn't mean that, or I was induced to say it, prove that. And
so as far as I know, though, the affidavit wasn't submitted to any sort of court case, though, right?
Wouldn't have, well, an affidavit itself wouldn't be evidence, right? So an affidavit, unless there was some exception to hearsay, that affidavit is an out of court statement. So this is what people don't understand. Like, just writing the affidavit, all right, great, that might give you probable cause or something like that, or it might be it'll be useful to get a prior and consistent statement for impeachment purposes. But the real testimony is me taking the stand and saying, yes, this happened, yes, it occurred. That's an in-court statement. So that's not hearsay. So and then you get cross-examination.
What Pisco is saying is that, like, right now, I could be like, I attest that I was born on Mars. Pisco could help me write this affidavit. I could publish this. There'd be no problem with me. If I try to take that thing to court, though, there's where the problem comes in. Vadim, sorry, you've been wanting to get in for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get going in probably like 5 minutes, and I just wanted to throw out a couple of things. For those, if anyone happens to check out the discussion that I had, I just kind of want to throw this out as a disclaimer. I already kind of said this, but I would definitely say, and I'm not like regretful of it at all, but I would say that I was probably it's the most juvenile discussion that I've had, at least on my end. I've had some debates where other people went to absurd lengths, but you can hear me purposely belching into the microphone and making fart noises because this guy was constantly interrupting me, and I was doing that far less with him. I did it more as it went on. So keep all that in mind. Keep in mind that he was being an ass before we ever started. I was really doing okay, I'm gonna throw back at you kind of a thing. What you know. So just bear that in mind. I really doubt anyone who watches this channel is going to watch it and is going to be like, that Vadim is just being way too puerile. But anyway, the last thing that I want to say that I just think is funny is that the guy that I was talking to, Maddox, kept on insisting. I mean, of course, he has no problem talking about these egregious crimes that just a whole gaggle of people supposedly committed, but yet he kept on saying, like, well, if this mailman is lying, he would be perjuring himself, or I forget exactly the terms he used, but he was just seemed so incredulous at the idea that this person could be lying, and obviously because of the stiff penalties that he believed would ensue, it's proof that he can't be. So this is just kind of like just the piss poor argumentation that we get from these idiots. I mean, I guess I'll just say this because I really need to duck out in like 3 minutes. Do you have anything that you'd like to throw at me, that you'd just like to ask me to address? Or I mean, I don't expect
there was a question from chat. Vadim, did you listen to the USPS Inspector General the 2-hour long slog that DemonMama was complaining about?
I listened to about half, maybe close to half of Destiny's discussion of it, and I was planning on watching the rest, and I'd also like to watch Vash's take on I'd like to watch both of them.
Yeah, there's a lot. We got a question from chat that says, didn't the USPS Inspector General try to scare or stress him? I think he tried to make him aware that, like, this was actually his affidavit and that his ass was on the line. So if that's scaring, or
can I address that?
Yeah,
please?
Go ahead.
So first of all, in our country, United States, most of you are familiar with Miranda versus Arizona. That's the quote unquote Miranda rights, right? You have the right to remain silent, that sort of thing. That, first of all, is not at issue as a legal matter for the most part if you're not under arrest, right? If you go to the police and say, I just committed a murder, you're not, they didn't have to read your rights before you said that.
Mm-hmm.
So as a sort of formal legal matter, he wasn't under arrest. He was told multiple times at the beginning of that conversation, you're not under arrest.
Yeah.
You can leave, or not, you're not arrested, but you're free to go whenever you want. You don't have to talk to us. As also, they gave him essentially the full suite of Miranda warnings.
That's what they did. Yeah.
Yep. Even though they didn't have to. They could have just said, no, listen, you're not under arrest. But they said you're not being coerced. You know what coerced means? Yes, this means this is this. Sign right here. Do you know, like? So I don't want to hear it about procedural safeties. I don't want to hear it about coercion. If anything was a voluntary statement, this most assuredly was a voluntary statement.
If they were trying to scare him, they would have said something like, okay, so we have some results. We have some evidence that we've collected over time. They only asked him specifically about his statements. He wasn't talking about, are you sure? Because if we go look at some of the stuff that we already have, that would sound like a scare tactic. Or we talk to your bosses and we have different stories.
Yep.
That would sound like a scare
tactic. Yeah. Also allowed. You're allowed to, if you're given a voluntary statement, you're allowed to ask questions.
Vadim, sorry. We kind of took it away from you there.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I do have to go. I wanted to, what did I want to say? I had one final thought for everybody, and god damn it, my brain just isn't firing on all cylinders today. Give me 2 seconds and I'll probably remember it, and if I can't remember it in 2 seconds, I'll just let you guys go. I guess I can't remember it.
It's okay. I've been having one of those weeks too.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on. I remember what it is. I wanted to comment, so sort of extend something that RumourFlies mentioned earlier, which is that, he said something to the effect of, we have to brace ourselves for the future, that this is going to happen more. I completely agree. That's probably going to be the case. But not only that, I just think that it's going to be all the harder for, Biden already has an uphill battle, but it's going to be all the harder. There's going to be constant from people on the inside, like our senators and representatives, calling him a fake president, or just a president who got elected by bullshit terms, and not only that, the QAnoners are just gonna go crazy for the next 4 years unless they unexpectedly die out. That would be great. I would really love for that to happen. But I know it's not happening. But one can wish, right? Anyhow, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, guys, and I do need to go. So it's been a pleasure. a sheer sensation. All you guys are cool, and thanks for having me on. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Yeah, and
wonderful
good to
day,
have you
Vadim.
again.
Good to
Everybody,
see you
check
again.
out Vadim's your channel. Is it called?
It's currently called CreationistCat. It's going to be switched to HeyItsVadim. Most of my videos these days are kind of called HeyItsVadim, or at least there's HeyItsVadim branding in them. And I'm just waiting. There was a cliffhanger where CC in a video on cancel culture, CC finds out that he's being canceled. There's going to be a like final CC video. He may come back as like here and there and guest appearances, but there's going to be a final CC video that sort of wraps up his saga. And once I get that done, that's when the official name rebranding will occur. That's just a little inside scoop for you guys.
Nice.
But yeah, I guess there's not much else to say. You guys are cool in my book. And
Yeah, likewise.
thanks everyone for watching. I haven't been watching the chat, but I'm sure you guys are all super thumbs up, super duper cool. I'm bad with exits and
it's okay.
ending things. So
I always just say ooh. I always just say ooh and like give a heart emoji. So yeah, like good to see you.
Disrespect, say oh shit, then quit.
And Vadim, I'll get a hold of you. Like we'll see about maybe doing that stream where we go and take apart Maddox's bullshit, because I think that'd be fun to deconstruct that shit. I think that would be a masterclass in gish galloping and the art of shitty debating. So yeah, we'll be in touch about that. Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, and everybody have a great one. Okay.
Yeah, you
Thanks
too.
so much. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right, that's Vadim CreationistCat right now on YouTube. You'll soon be seeing that channel change its name to Hey It's Vadim, but for now it's CreationistCat. Definitely go and yeah, thank you, Francis, for that shout out. But yeah, where were we?
We were talking about the particular story of the Project Veritas claim. I think we're on board of why we have problems with it. We think that there's scant evidence, even if you take what he accepts as true. He is not a credible witness because he's very easily impeachable. And I think we can move on from this story. I think we've established that Project Veritas itself doesn't seem to be a very credible journalistic organization.
Yeah, no, we've definitely been on this. So I want to make sure, especially if RumourFlies, if your audio is working right now, that we cover the Dominion voting system, because this is going to be one of the new things after we've whacked a bunch of the moles. Like a bunch of these moles have been whacked down. I think that they're starting to move towards the discussion of the actual the technology that is used. And so this isn't. I think I understand Dominion voting. Like this would be for the in-person voting, right?
Yes, this is for the voting systems. Dominion voting is just one of the people that sets up the ballot marker, like scanners and stuff. They have 3 different types of systems. They have software, hardware, made both for like digital ballot filling out and for paper ballots. This is where things get a little bit insane. Did y'all see Trump's tweet yesterday talking about 2.7 million votes being deleted or ballots being deleted by Dominion systems, and 144,000 were switched
in
over
Michigan
Biden.
and yeah,
I decided to jump into that a little bit, and it turns out that it falls nice in line with my forte. I kind of watched it in slow motion, and it's really disturbing in the fact that Trump right now is currently parroting, by 1 degree of separation, probably somebody posting his Q right now. I don't want to say it definitely is, but it is a lot of things pointing towards it. If you aren't aware, everybody probably knows what QAnon is at this point, but everybody is also starting to lean over to the fact that the person who's currently in control of it is a man named Jim Watkins, and his son runs 8kun, or ran 8kun up until the day of the election. And he started trying to go into tech expert mode. Now, he does know some IT and admin because he runs the website. That doesn't mean that he knows how to run a voting machine. I'm not going to trust a podiatrist to do surgery on my brain, just the same way that I'm not going to trust a web admin to run all the voting machines in a precinct if they don't have any training. And he's currently trying to pose it that he is. Do you have any way of doing screen share on here or no? Because I have a nice little document.
I think that you can do like I think that do you okay, look in the whereby and see if there's like a screen share like button.
Yep. Can you guys see this?
Oh, yes, we can. Wow,
Yes,
I've never done this
can.
before. Awesome.
Oh, incredible.
All right, yes. This
Just
is
make sure not to dox yourself though, you know.
Oh, we're good. There's nothing. Oh, there's people looking at it right now. How cool is that? Yeah, I spoke with the QAnon Anonymous guys. Very good people if you want an interesting podcast to listen to regarding that and entertaining. So this is all Iran's tweets.
Which podcast? Sorry, the TrueAnon?
QAnon.
QAnon
Anonymous,
podcast. Okay.
Not
TrueAnon. Okay.
Also, different podcast. If it's visible enough, I can zoom in. If not, let's see. Let me just do it anyway for the sake of it. There we go. All right, so here's the journey of Ron Watkins and how Dominion voting systems became what's going to be the talk of the town for the next few days, unfortunately. So Ron went through a whole set of tweets saying that there were 300, he went through a 300-page Dominion voting democracy suite website manual, and I found it. He, number one, isn't using the most current one. All the sources are in here. I can put this link in chat if anybody wants. He has questions about security, and as I'm talking about this, I want you guys to really think about what he's doing here. He is asking questions along the way to kind of break down your assurance that everything's okay, and then he starts to conjecture, and then he's going to, well, we'll see how it rides down. So first he talks about like some program memory cards. Just reading this paragraph, he really just wants you to read the highlighted section because he's trying to throw jargon at the wall for you and get you to trust him. He's trying to get you to trust him into knowing that he knows, internet, he knows technology, so he knows these voting machines very well. This is not a complicated manual. This is a user's guide. It's not like the back end. So what he ends up doing after this is he starts injecting articles that are relevant to this. He's talking about the fact that on October 1st, AP News said that there were a whole bunch of USB drives stolen at a Philly warehouse. You know what? He was kind enough to actually include the article. And then he asked once again a question. Didn't Pennsylvania take a vote counting break during the night of the election? Well, I went to that article, and it turns out that none of this was really election-sensitive data that he was citing or that got stolen. The USBs were taken, they were married, but guess what? There's something in the manual that you can deal with for that. Here's me going, number one, to the facts here. Philadelphia doesn't use Dominion voting systems whatsoever. This is from any of the sources, so that's already out. They don't use it. So he's trying to make a connection that isn't there whatsoever. He's doing the Philadelphia pivot, and then he's saying Dominion seems a little bit fishy. It gets worse than that. Here's all the ones, all the counties in Philadelphia that actually, in Pennsylvania, that actually do use Dominion voting systems. All but 2 went for Trump. So if they wanted to really jab in that little bit of like voter fraud, they weren't doing it very well. Matter of fact, if you go by deleting, removing all of Trump's votes from Biden's, you get a negative number to the tune of almost 70,000. So have fun with that one right there, Ron. Going on, here is where he keeps going through the manual, and stop me if you need to at any point for me to explain more. I'm not an expert on this, but I can Google for 2 seconds, and I did on here, and he didn't. He just put this out as soon as he was going. This is a stream of consciousness of his. He mentions an algorithm for security that doesn't matter whatsoever. Moves on to saying that in this mode using this algorithm, all participants in the process use the same encryption keys. And he starts saying, that seems a little bit weird, right? Like, why would you give everybody the same encryption keys? So if these USBs were stolen, then anybody can access it. It's insane. Well, this is just for I'm going a little bit more into the memory cards that he's talking about. He's trying to connect the USBs to these encryption keys and such, but he mentions 2 things in the manual that are the compact flash memory cards and an iButton security key. Well, here's the programming of these security keys. It says specifically, in the case of any of these being compromised, these security keys will be reissued on the day of the election, pretty much. And this was done on October 1st. So I think they had their shit together by then. Are y'all keeping up with me on how it's just falling apart, everything he says from 2 seconds of Googling it?
I think that's right. Yeah, I don't think it ever had any validity.
This seems to remind me of again what we were talking about with the affidavits, where groups like Veritas, the Q people, these conspiracy theorists love doing this shit. They like finding jargon or fancy, scary sounding words like affidavit and testimony and stuff like that, and they throw these up to make it so that you get lost in the complexity, and then you just assume that whoever's talking about it has expertise on that topic. But in reality, they don't, and they may not even be presenting any evidence that means anything.
We all have to defer to a supposed higher knowledge of somebody else, and that's a normal day thing. Nobody has the time to look up everything, and these people are trying to jump in and be those people that you can look up to for information, and just trust that they're not spewing bullshit. So yeah, those keys were reissued. Go ahead, Pisco.
Yeah, sure. So if we're gonna play the game, so I understand what you're saying. So to a certain extent, I can't independently prove that the world is round. I have like some ideas that I've seen some things about it, but I don't have enough in-depth knowledge to prove that or to prove gravity. So you do rely on some things. So here is, I think, the extent to the conspiracy that must exist for this to be true. So one is, it has to be the case, I think was already mentioned, about this overperformance of non-Trump Republicans. That has to be intentional or a big mess up by the people who are. So first of all, someone needs to be organizing this conspiracy. It is a conspiracy. People are intentionally defrauding Trump out of the election.
And do you want to just go over really quickly the legal definition of the conspiracy and differentiate that from a conspiracy theory?
Okay. Yeah. So there's conspiracy is a separate substantive offense that deals with the agreement to commit a crime. So, but there's an underlying crime. When I say conspiracy, it certainly would be a conspiracy because there was probably some agreement that can be manifested through overt acts. So that's the definition of conspiracy. But in the layman's term, conspiracy, I just mean a plan to commit some crimes. In this case, it would definitely be a crime to commit to give fake ballots or to have dead people vote. So you have to think, and intention is usually an element of these crimes. So there must have been some intentional misconduct and illegal activity on the part of multiple state apparatuses, some of which are run by Republicans, to affect the election in key districts. But also, Biden overperformed in certain districts, for instance, in Pennsylvania, in rural places. So presumably, and that overperformance is actually in many states less than how he performed in the city. So you'd have to believe that his overperformance in those counties is somehow connected or unconnected. It's a mess. And of course, you'd have to believe that the individual actors, the people who are gathering polls and counting, are also in on it. At a certain level of magnitude and scope, I think the conspiracy starts to collapse in on itself. And there are too many actors here to coordinate effectively without evidence.
Yeah, so just so everybody knows, like, a conspiracy is basically a crime that two or more people have talked about and agreed to commit together. The reason that a complicated conspiracy is harder to pull off than a simple conspiracy is because the more people that you pull in and talk to, the more potential sources for leaks. So if we had a conspiracy that involved like 10,000 people, we're fucked. Somebody's going to talk. If we have a conspiracy that involves 500 people, we're probably fucked. Somebody's going to talk. The only conspiracies that really have a chance of working is those who limit the people who know about the conspiracies down to people, I guess, who have a real stake in the success of the conspiracy, right? And so alleging a conspiracy, it should require some proof to begin with, but it especially should be looked at as a suspect if the conspiracy would require like many people in order to commit. The more people you add to that conspiracy, the less likely it is to have actually happened.
Yeah,
without
exactly. And this case would be coordinated between a whole bunch of different pollsters that are running these voting machines and are either deleting or switching votes, which more on that.
And within states, they have different voting collection systems within states and across precincts. The conspiracy would need to be robust across these precincts, would need to be robust in a way to, I guess, purposely exclude the Democratic candidates who underperformed in favor of Biden, which you already mentioned, and not include states such as Florida and Ohio, where
real quick, here's a map of Dominion. Dominion is not. Let's see. Can you guys see this? Here's all of Dominion in general, where they're using everything. It is not across the entire United States, which is not loading. There we go. Yeah, Florida isn't very much included. Pennsylvania's there. For some reason, my great home state of Louisiana should have flipped to Biden. Alaska should have. California, of course, we know they flipped it. It should have been a red California. We knew that. But yeah, it's not like Dominion's like across the board. It's not. That's not the case. So even the coordination would be very poor if this was true. It's insane.
But again, let's not grant them. Let's not grant them this. So in order to even if it were everywhere, you need to prove that mere adoption of Dominion is itself enough to prove some sort of wrongdoing. And it hasn't been established, as you've pointed out, among other things, that Dominion is a source of fraudulent votes. And also in on it, by the way, would have to be those federal organizations overseeing the election process, by which I refer to various law enforcement agencies, including the Department of Homeland Security, including the FBI, including the Justice Department, including some other agency, I think, that was in charge of overseeing the elections, who said it's the most fair and most the best election they've ever had. That's the Trump administration's federal agencies. So this conspiracy crosses across state lines. It goes down to the individual volunteers who are working it, and includes such high up people as the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, or the acting secretary, I guess, Chad Wolf, and everyone else in the federal.
RumourFlies, can you roll us back to that map again? I just wanted to check on the map. So one of the things that like Vadim was running into with this Maddox guy was that when Vadim said that, like, you know, why didn't they flip the senators too? Maddox's excuse was that the software wasn't anywhere where there were senators like in contentious races, right? We can see that's not true right here. The whole of Georgia is Dominion, right? Georgia's got two races for Senate. You know, and then again, these are races that the Democrats aren't eliminated from yet. They came out on the short end of a multiple, it's like the first past the post, but they were number 2 in each of these ones. So you'd think that they would have either wanted to be bumped up to 1 or bumped up to 50% so they get the plurality and actually get it. Instead, they're just like still like in the race, but likely to lose. You know, and then in this case, they would have to, you know, steal another election with Dominion. What else? North Carolina, there's no North Carolina, there's no. There are
competitive House races in California, which the Republicans won.
Hey, Rumor, real quick, not to cut in, but would you mind posting your document in the Whereby chat? Because I'd like to share it with my chat as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you got the treasure trove there, Rumor. I love that.
It's fun. We're not even done yet, but yeah, I'll share it.
So this has been a great Rumor. Thank you for the Dominion rundown here. That's super helpful. And
really quick, here's the USB keys that he was talking about. They're not USB keys. Those are flashcards. I can go through this very fast. Sorry, unless you have something particular on this, Pisco.
No, I don't.
Okay. So pretty much he once again does stuff about finding out, what changes did they do to the system before the elections? Well, that was done in 2018, as you can see right here. So that's 2 years in planning. And then also, he could have just scrolled down. He would have seen all the engineering changes for these systems. None of them have anything to do with changing votes. If anything, it's to stop people from voting like just completely down ballot, blue or red. And there's also some people, there's some accessibility fixes for it, like making the screens bigger or making sound cues. That's it. Once again, password stuff, that's just for certifying, exporting a file. And let me go ahead and send that to the Whereby chat real quick for you guys. Sorry.
I love this.
I could go more into depth, but honestly, it doesn't add a whole lot of worth to this. If I'm being completely honest, but I do want to get to the Empire. Whoops, that's Discord. All right, DemonMama, it is coming. Where's the chat in Whereby? I'm not used to using this too often.
It's chat next to leave.
Okay, let's hope I don't hit the leave
It's
button.
between. Oh yeah, because it's different for you
Yeah, it
guys
says
than
like
it is for
chat,
me.
it'll pop up and then you can copy paste it into there. Discord
Okay,
works too,
found it.
whatever
There we
works.
go.
Sure.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
So,
There's the doc.
so
All
I'm glad
right,
we touched on the Dominion. If you don't mind,
sure.
I would love it if we could like hit some of these other ones and then talk about the Pennsylvania case among others with respect to like the legal things that aren't strictly speaking illegal fraud ways of
Yeah.
interfering. Okay.
But here's just the one last bit before we get to that.
Yeah.
I wanted to show that pretty much I go through a whole bunch of stuff. He's adding literally nothing that is of any substance. Once again, he cuts down his own conspiracy theory when he posts another manual showing that it's not USBs. But regardless, he gets to the whole thing of assuming that people can just delete the ballots out of the place. But it's really for checking for Sharpie errors. Here's an example Sharpie error of what they would be doing, where they would go into this unambiguous folder. It's pretty much when people don't fill in the whole section completely. But regardless, he pinged OAN, and Chanel Rion went ahead and went on with it. And there we go, 2.7 million Trump votes that are deleted. And then afterwards, 435,000 votes were taken from Trump to Biden. However, there's no news article on OAN concerning this. I don't know where Trump got those numbers from. I'm still trying to figure that out. And if anybody wants to hit me up about that, please do.
It sounds
but
like
OAN hasn't even reported that. And he's
Yeah.
saying they did.
I mean, it almost sounds like he's in communication with these quote unquote like whistleblowers. And that is one of the things that the Pennsylvania Veritas whistleblower mentioned, is that Trump's people had been in communication with him. It wasn't just Veritas that he was talking to. It wasn't just the FBI. It was the Trump
lawyers.
administration. Yeah, the lawyers for the Trump administration.
They're desperate to find something that'll stick.
Oh my God, anything.
Throw anything at the wall to get it to stick, and that's where you can say, if this, then others, probably.
Yeah.
And it's genius, and it's going to be what we're going to have to deal with forever now, I think.
Yeah.
I can't think of a solution of how this is going to get better.
I don't either. Though I think things like this start to, I don't know how many people it will convince, but I think dialogues where people are ready and to sort of engage with these conspiracy theories, I think it's helpful to have some arguments.
Yeah,
if we could,
I can't help but feel that lots of easily accessible documents and videos and whatever, I imagine we have to treat this much like any other conspiracy theory, which the goal is to, again, most of the time inoculate people to the conspiracy thinking before they ever fall into that rabbit hole, because once you're in the rabbit hole, it's very hard to get people out. Yeah, because the point is that these conspiracy theories include thought terminating cliches that stop you from thinking. That's like, oh well, you're just a part of the conspiracy, you know what I mean, or you're taking the data from people who are part of the conspiracy, and they grow like a void and just like a black hole and just suck everything in. And so the goal is
conspiracies are there to make you feel special. Like, just as you said, inoculate, get ready for 2 months, people, because you're going to have to start fighting anti-vaxxers out the wazoo.
Oh my God, yes.
All the information that you need. I am prepared for that. But
also, keep in mind that a lot of this, there's a lot of bleed over between these communities, like a lot. Recently, a anti-mask blog that went up on my that I saw on Facebook. People on my Facebook were sharing this thing. It had tons of shares about anti-mask and how, this is a Democrat plot to get people to be complacent and whatever and listen to the government. And that was, I dug into the writer of it, and that person is a prominent anti-vaxxer who wrote an entire book about how vaccines cause autism and all this stuff, and is still churning that. So again, there's a lot of overlap between these communities.
Oh yeah.
And they use it to launder what's that?
Was it Larry Cook?
No, I think it was like JD Handley or something like that.
I know that one.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so they will launder multiple conspiracies at the same time with the goal of pulling people into, like, again, an alternate reality where there's so much, you just got to keep digging.
And it doesn't help when people in positions of authority, namely, one, the president, and also people like Samuel Alito on the Supreme Court, play into the kind of fears of government overreach with respect to the pandemic. We're facing a global pandemic, and Samuel Alito is concerned at a time where our cases are spiking like never before about infringements on civil liberties with respect to like stay-at-home orders and the government asking people to wear masks.
Well, and I think that's like the biggest thing, right? That's the frontier. That's the new territory that we have no idea that we're going into, because I don't know that we have an easy example in American history of this much platform being given to just raw conspiracy theory. The president tweeting this out in many people's minds is enough to give it credibility, especially if they're like, I don't know anything about all this like encryption stuff. But the president of the United States, the president of the currently most powerful and dominant cultural force in the world, is endorsing this. So I don't know that we really have a precedent to understand how much damage this type of a conspiracy could do on this scale. And that is what's very scary to me. And why I think we need to be firing on like all cylinders, to be taking this seriously, to be debunking this, to be making the information as easily accessible and understandable as possible. And I certainly hope that that's the case, but I don't know. I don't know that like the firepower is there necessarily when we're going up against Donald Trump and Supreme Court justices and prominent politicians who are again pushing forward a totally alternate reality.
So DemonMama, did you get any sense of like whether did Twitter do anything with that tweet? Or maybe RumourFlies, maybe you know this too because you were the one that posted the tweet of Donald Trump retweeting this stuff. Did Twitter put any sort of a warning on that?
Those warnings mean as much to Trump supporters as blue check marks do now.
Pretty much, yeah. They're almost like a badge of honor at this point. But did they try to do that? Did they try to like, be like, hey, this isn't
Yeah, that warning's on there, but Twitter hasn't put even nearly enough information that I did. And I put 2 hours last night into it. They're just saying, hey, we don't know about this. That's it.
It almost makes it more fun to click on. It's like, ooh, this is something I shouldn't click on. Let me click on it. It's like one of those things of like, this is a mature audiences only kind of deal here. And you're like, that never stopped any kid from clicking on it, right? And this stuff doesn't stop anybody from, especially somebody with motivated reasoning. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to draw a parallel between this situation and what we had in the 1950s through whenever they finally realized how bad cigarettes were and it was incontrovertible, where like all the cigarette lobby had to do, they didn't have to prove that cigarettes didn't cause cancer. They didn't have any sort of burden of proof. All they had to do, because we're dealing with motivated reasoning here, all they had to do is make a little confusion of like, well, I don't know, some of the research says this and some of the research says this, and then people will,
it's a wash.
Well, it's not just a wash. It's like people are looking for a reason to believe that the election that they just lost wasn't fair, didn't happen, was, that the rejection that the country just showed, to Donald Trump, which I would have preferred a little stronger rejection, but hey, we got a rejection, that's good, right? They're gonna try, they want something to show them that the rejection of Trump does not represent the overwhelming, or the will of the American people, and like anything that provides them that, they're gonna believe if they can just introduce a little confusion. So that makes it hard on us. It almost does put the burden of proof on us if we're trying to, catch the, if we're trying to be little catchers in the rye here and catch the QAnoners before they, or but the Trumpies before they fall too far down the rabbit hole. So somebody talked about, what was the word? Not like a vaccine, inoculation against these conspiracies. We've seen this work with like Scientology. So when back in the day when 4chan went up against Scientology, one of the things that they did was they told everybody all the things that you find out when you become a top level Scientologist. So like if you don't know, when you go into Scientology, you'll just go into a reading room and you'll read some really like boring stuff of like you think better with our technology, with our techniques, and you'll be like, okay, this sounds reasonable, right? You don't learn about Xenu and the volcano and the thetans or any of that shit until you become a super high level. You're already super invested. So that's how they kind of keep that under control. So what Anonymous did was they put this information out about like, hey, just so you know, if you go into Scientology, here's Xenu, here's the volcanoes, here's all their craziest shit. And they used that to inoculate the people against that, because if people got that at the very beginning, if they were like, oh, this is what Scientology is about, there'd be a lot less fans of Scientology. There'd be a lot less stands of Scientology. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, conspiracy minus is more like, it's very similar to a virus, to the point that like it's always better to prevent something rather than treat it. That's why all of these ridiculous things about hydroxychloroquine, even if it worked, which it doesn't, for the record, I can confidently say that much now. Even if it did, that's like saying that nobody has to wear seatbelts because we have great paramedics in case you fly through a windshield. It's prevention for this type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like we're having to prevent this type of thought from getting into people's heads. Conspiracy isn't there to enhance your brain or reshape the way you look at things. It's to tear down the way you look at things, whether it be right or not. Imagine us going around proselytizing to people, just saying vaccines are good, yelling in the streets about that. A lot of people would just be like, well, no shit, we know vaccines are good. You're boring. There's nothing good about saying something that most people already know. This conspiracy stuff is about taking down stuff that people don't know and making them feel special because now they know something new, whether it be true or not. And that's the hard part, is that obviously we have an education problem because people aren't critically thinking about things to easily take some of these things down. We have to reframe our way of how the internet is educating people just as much as traditional schooling. How much we are actually able to interact with each other on a personal basis as opposed to a basis where you can just yell at somebody on the internet until they believe you or until somebody else is performatively convinced because somebody performs better in a debate. It's a lot of things that we have to approach right now about how to stop people from falling into this mindedness just because it makes them seem cool that they know something else that other people don't. And that's what Trump is doing amazingly at right now. I know he's on his way out, but I mean, it's like taking a drunk person out of a bar. Like I said last time I was on this, like they're going to take down tables and glasses along the way. It's not going to be fun for the next 2 months. It's a headache at the moment. But yeah, I wish we weren't here, but here we are.
And another thing that I don't think has been mentioned yet is that some of Trump's goal in this plausibility for him getting the election stolen from him, which is all he's trying to assert now, is basically for fundraising. Now he's got campaign debt. He owes money that if he doesn't get donations from, he's gonna have to pay for that out of pocket. I don't know, it's Trump. He'll probably find a way of getting out of it anyway. Let's be real, Trump doesn't pay any of his bills, right? He stiffs everybody. That's his style. But especially when he's upset about something, he tends to do that. But yeah, he's trying to basically a lot of this might be to get donations, to convince the herds of Trumpists, which just like I said, motivated reasoning. They want a reason to believe in Donald Trump, and if they can get a reason, they might slip him some more money. They might think they're giving him money to overturn the election, just like some people thought. What was it, Jill Stein that tried to go after the recounts in was it Michigan and Wisconsin or something like that?
Right, yeah.
Right, and their money's not. They're just getting it taken away from them. They're not going to get the election overturned. They're not going to get anything they want. They might help Donald Trump pay down his campaign debts, and I guess if they're in it for that, that's cool. But I don't know. I can't feel too bad about Trump supporters getting ripped off. It's kind of poetic. It would be poetic justice if it didn't help out Trump so much.
Yeah, I want to say I think we've dealt with a lot of the outright fraud accusations.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll lose our minds if we keep talking about dead voting stuff. Like,
oh no, that's right. I forgot about Biden's legions of, what is it called? The legions of the doom, the legions of the damned. There's like an old movie. Some right winger was basically was talking about Biden's zombie army. Voting.
And keep in mind what is evidence and what is not evidence for this. It's not evidence that we have dead people on voter rolls to suggest that they in fact voted. So we should be taking those claims with a grain of salt. And
once again, those particular allegations, once again, were sourced from some random Twitter, like blue check right-wing Twitter
Yeah.
guy who made a video that's totally unverified. I mean, it's actually unbelievable how much of this is sourced out of boomer Facebook equivalents. Like, I've had people coming into my chat and dropping these literally blurry videos of X thing happening. It is a fervor. We're in the middle of an absolute panic. And it's really wild because it's really hard to address those things when people have convinced themselves that a video that has no context, that the only thing that says this is about voter fraud at all is the framing of it from somebody that they, for some reason or another trust. It is a very hard battle to fight because yeah, like you can point out, oh, this is a blurry video, this doesn't show anything, and then they'll go, yeah, but I mean, yes, it does. I can show you 100 of these, and it's like, well, but 100 of these still means nothing because there's no context here. You've shown me a video of some random person approaching two other random people and going, oh, are those ballots? And then they're like, yeah. And it's like, okay, was this
Who
even
are
from
those
this
people?
year? Yeah.
What are their names? When is this video taken? Like
Yeah.
these kind of foundational things are the reason they're necessary in courts to have foundation and to establish what something is, and for the court to take notice of it is precisely because we're worried about these baseline sort of verifying information and whether this is real, what's being shown, and if what's being shown is what is being claimed is being shown. So it would be impossible for us to go through the laundry list of claims, whether it's this claim or the claim about ballot harvesting or any other such claims. I guess my general recommendation would be to just have a mind that is skeptical of all claims coming into you, and ask yourselves, establish first principles. How do you know what you think you know? Or what is this video? Why does this video think it knows what it's claiming? And again, also ask yourselves who's claiming it, and do they have a motivation to claim it? It seems obvious that Project Veritas will come to the conclusion it helps itself and helps its political motivations. So I think you would be a lot less skeptical if it came from a place of, I don't know, Associated Press or something like that. But more, I guess I would love, if it's okay with you guys, to transition to a conversation about some other types of lawsuits and claims that are being made, which I think reveal a lot about the priors of the Republican Party and a lot of people on Trump's side. Namely, the kind of claims having to do with the extension of voting, right? These are claims that, no one's alleging fraud, but they're alleging procedural defects in the extension of voting and the franchise to individuals. It seems like the goal is, on the part of Trump surrogates, to limit the world of voters. And they're in fact fear-mongering over what maybe this mail-in world is the world we're going to be living in permanently. So I'd be curious to know, what are your all thoughts about those kinds of challenges? Those that they're saying, as a procedural matter, as a policy matter, we should limit the franchise.
All I have to say about that at the moment, without having to say anything too in depth, is that we for once get to say the things that usually they would say to us: states' rights, baby. Like, they're allowed to do it. That's it. I mean, It's not like there's much contention about that. That's how the voting system works. I would love for a more standardized voting system across the board. I've had a couple of arguments about that, of how to implement that. But as it stands right now, there's nothing to stop those states from, taking in votes until 3 weeks from, the election.
So Pisco, were you talking about, like, in Pennsylvania, one of the allegations is basically like that, like cities, like left-wing cities, left-wing districts, let's put it that way, have rules that make it easier to vote, right? Basically, is what they're
yes, essentially they're doing everything they can to assert procedural defects in the implementation of these policies extending voting. So they'll say it was out of the authority of the lieutenant governor or secretary of state to extend the voting receipt deadline in Pennsylvania. That's one thing that they're claiming, among others, right?
Mm-hmm.
A procedural defect might be we didn't have, for this batch of voters, observers, though often they do, and oftentimes they've been forced when the court is asking the lawyers, didn't you have people there? And they're like, we had a non-zero amount of people in the room. And the court will have to say again, I'm asking you as a member of a bar of this court, were there Trump supporters and watchers in that room, and the Trump lawyers have to say yes. So, but besides the factual deficiencies for the Trump lawyers, and by the way, a lot of those lawyers are leaving Trump's because of, I guess they're afraid of the reputational consequences that might emerge as a result of representing Trump in these frivolous lawsuits.
They want to be their last gig.
Yeah,
and that's a weird thing. Let's be clear. These what is it? Jones is one of his law firms,
Jones,
and then there's
Jones
yeah. These law firms have defended really disreputable people you wouldn't want to be associated with. People you wouldn't think that if you cared about your reputation, you wouldn't take those cases. But they have been there to defend them. They are actually saying now, I don't know about Trump. Trump is becoming the bridge too far for them.
Yeah, 100%. But suppose it's true. Suppose it's true that the Trump observers were not let in, and that was a problem. Is the remedy to throw out all those ballots in the room, or all the ballots from the precinct? Could that ever be the remedy? And if that's the remedy you want to impose, of course. So how can the conclusion I must draw is, and I'm sorry to bring it there, it seems like the Trump administration and people in his orbiters want to disenfranchise a certain class of voters, and those voters are urban and they live in city. And maybe it's a step too far. I think that there's a racial element here. It's the same thing having to do with the universe of people alleging that birtherism, right? It's that there's a certain kind of people, and those certain kinds of people are undermining our democracy in a certain kind of way. And I think it's totally in concert with that. And I think there's a racial element suggesting that black voters aren't.
I would say that even if there's not a racial element, it is an easy thing to assert that the Trump team has realized that if they've got a heavily POC district, they're going to expect less votes out of that district, right? There's an association, a negative correlation between POCs and Trump voters, basically. And so they know that they can pick up votes, they can skew the vote in their direction by eliminating those votes. And they've tried to do this in so many ways. They've been doing this since like the mid 2000s at least, where they'll go along and they'll try to knock I think they caught doing this in Florida. They tried to knock African American sounding names, right? Like if your last name corresponds with a president's last name, they'll they assume that's they're going to catch more African American names there, and they'll try to knock those off. Just anything, and it almost doesn't matter if it's racist or not. Maybe they're racist, maybe they just want to win. Either way, they're discriminating and disenfranchising based on race. So fuck them.
Yeah, I'm shooting off the hip, but I think during the midterms 2 years ago in Georgia specifically, they wiped a insignificant number off of the voter registration ballots, whether they were alive, dead, or had recently voted or not. And that's also one of the dumbest rules, is purging voters because they haven't voted in the X amount of elections. Mm-hmm. Once you're registered, why is there ever a reason to unregister you aside from a death certificate? These are the type of laws where it's just, you look at it. I mean, gerrymandering. I mean, if you look at
surgical precision.
Yeah, sir. There you go. I mean,
pretty much,
say more than the South Carolina law, but that's happening everywhere.
Yeah, this is all over the place. I mean, and again, part of this speaks to what Irene brought up at the very beginning of this podcast, that the bed of nails, in that there's been so many debacles over the last 4 years that it's been so hard to pin down anyone. Keep in mind that in the last 4 years, we had the grand reveal of the grandfather of gerrymandering. His own hard drive was leaked by his daughter. This was widely reported on. There are copies of this still up that documented the, again, nearly surgical precision with which the Republican Party attempted to disenfranchise minority votes. And so I'm just going to take a second here, and I'm going to be the sort of token far lefty here. And I'm going to say it goes more than just race, because what I think is happening right now is a push against democracy itself. We have a president whose only logical path forward is not a path to rightfully winning a democratic election. No, it's to end democratic elections in this country. None of the actions that Donald Trump is taking right now are conducive to legally challenging or reforming the vote. They are at completely eroding all faith in democratic institutions. To which I say, what is the end goal of that except autocracy? It is an authoritarian power grab, and we can conclude this by looking at the motivations and say, wait a second, these are the actions that are being taken. None of these have a chance at succeeding in court. None of these allegations would even impact positive change for democracy. They're asking for votes to be thrown out selectively. The goal is to ensure power for the right wing in America. That is the only goal.
Yeah. I mean, don't let the American flag on the promotional tweet fool you, DemonMama. I don't think you're any further to the left than I am. I'm just saying I'm completely on board with what you're saying. I wholeheartedly agree that this is the goal that Donald Trump and the Republicans have in mind, and it's a long-term goal, and they've been doing it for decades, and I mean, it does harm the democracy, and we've said before that the democracy's pretty performative. It's theatrical in a lot of ways. There's a lot of places where the rich can put their hand on the scales, can put their thumb on the scales to kind of tilt our democracy, right? So it's not the best democracy in the first place, but what little bit of democracy we actually do have, they're trying to undermine it every single day.
They're proposing to have the state legislatures allocate their electoral votes by state statute. I mean, if that isn't in sort of, I don't know, opening salvo against democracy, or maybe not an opening one, I don't know what is.
No, yeah. I don't think that's a spicy take at all, DemonMama. I fully agree with you on that.
Well, I think I can go a little further on this too, because I really want the audience to understand the length to which this goes. Republicans do not win popular elections. They don't.
And going forward, they're going to win even less.
Yeah, the Republican Party does not win in democratic systems. They simply do not. They have to use things like the Electoral College. I mean, quite frankly, the Republican Party is smaller than the Democratic Party, like by sheer membership. They are, by definition, the Republicans in this country are, by definition, the party of the tyranny of a minority. They are a very statistically powerful group of people that wield a lot of money and power, and they find any way to hold on to that power and to take power, and it's never the popular vote. It's never representative of the people in this country. And I think people should realize that a party whose incentives rely on winning elections through non-democratic means is not a democratic party. And I tend to subscribe to the opinion, as do some other people in politics, Twitch and YouTube, that the Republican Party is one of the biggest obstacles to justice in this country at all. And the sooner that I think even Republicans or current Republicans realize that this party is not working in their interest, that it is a party that's only purpose is to maintain the rule of its own internal elites and nothing else, then we will move forward. And I think that this particular example of Donald Trump attempting to completely use the pulpit of the democratically elected president, which is arguable even in 2016, is to use this to completely delegitimize our government. And that is the part that scares me the most, because legitimacy crises are historically not exactly very good places for countries to be in. And every single day, not even every single day, almost every hour right now, even while I'm streaming, I will get people sending me a new Donald Trump tweet that is adding to the fire of burning down the legitimacy of any concept of democracy. And again, another big problem that I have with this is the fact that it completely obfuscates real critiques of democracy that are made to make our democracy more equitable. They can't be taken seriously because instead the focus is on a critique of democracy that isn't a critique of democracy. It's a rebuking of democracy.
DemonMama, can I just say based based 100%. No, you said it, like, right there. Hey, we've got some people in our chat. Lady Raincloud, I want to get to your question too, but Snapper's been asking questions. It sounds like Snapper's a little bit like, you know, has some questions about the election itself. Let's see if I can get some of your... Okay, so Snapper says if a person hasn't lived in a state for 5 years, then they should be removed from the register. Is that like a... Is
That's
that a
fine.
normal
I mean,
thing?
whatever. So we're just saying that it seems like a lot of. I understand that impulse. We're worried about people from 2 different states, I guess, voting twice. The answer to that is it's really not a problem. One, you're committing a crime if you're doing so. Fine, have your own laws about it. But it seems like a lot of these laws are targeted with the intention to remove a certain class of voter. Maybe not that one specifically, but it seems it should be easier to register to vote, not harder, if not automatic.
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of an interesting question because I personally think if you live in that state, whether it be for 2 days or 20 years, all the things happening in that state are going to affect you. The other state, yeah, you should totally be incriminated if you try to vote from both of them. But this whole 5-year must live there thing, it's not, that's almost like passing a citizenship test at some point. Like, you live there, you're affected by everything that happens in that state, especially down ballot from just the president, which is what we're going to be seeing at the midterms. I guess in reference
sorry, I
to
didn't want to interrupt. I'm sorry, but I just remember something. I know I'm going to forget it. Also, it's not easy to know where people live. So the question of where you're allowed to vote is usually one of domicile, which is your permanent home. People go to court to find out where you're domiciled because it's important for purposes of tax. So being, living someplace, having a residence for tax purposes might be different than being there having residency for other purposes is different than domicile. It's a tough legal question, and just to suggest that we know for certain where someone should vote just based on where they own residences, I think is a little bit off. Sorry to interrupt.
Though I think that narrative is going to come back sooner than we think, especially in January because of Georgia being in a Senate runoff. They're going to bring up. I saw this recent thing about the plan for some Democrats to move over to Georgia to flip it and everything. Number one, obviously, think about how easy it is for any of you to get up and move right now to Georgia. Just that's not exactly viable. I don't know who's bringing that up right now.
It sounds like a bloody Kansas thing. It sounds like when they like everybody moved into Kansas ahead of the vote for slavery back in the 1800s.
They did that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like that's that around the time of John Brown and everything. Yeah. I think that's that there was they called it bloody Kansas, and then I think some Democrats joked about doing the same thing in Ohio during the Bush term, and there has been an effort by Stacey Abrams, I believe, to get out the vote in Georgia.
Active thing. But that's where they're going to bring up the whole you need to be here for a certain amount of time. Even if some people are able to even move by then, people are going to say you need to be, that's going to be the next narrative that a lot of the Republicans are going to be saying is that you need to be living here for a certain amount of time to vote. This is stealing an election once again. Once again, if you live there, you should be able to vote for that.
I agree.
If you're paying taxes there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it even doesn't have to do with taxes. Like, and here's the thing: when people bring up voter ID law and all this stuff, very frequently, and I ask, okay, so do you think that homeless citizens of the United States should not be able to participate in an election? And
we haven't even gotten to the felons part yet.
Right.
So,
I've literally been on a panel about just that, actually 2 panels about just that exact topic. But I sometimes wonder, and I think sometimes what is effective is just asking people, well, who do you think should be allowed to vote then? Because if you think that you need to have a house in order to vote, well, then that rules out most of the country, because most people don't own houses. Now, if you think you just need to have a permanent place to live, well, that rules out still millions of people who are citizens, legal citizens of the United States. So do you think that you should have a right to vote as a citizen of the United States? And then if you go from there, then you can start talking, you can keep cutting this down and go as far as you want. And I think that we can sort of find this, but at the end of the day, all of this is because there are assumptions that are baked into these questions of like, oh, well, I don't understand the voting process, so I'm afraid of illegal votes. But then you have to ask, well, then how would an illegal vote be made? How would you generate an illegal vote? We already have systems to verify whether people have voted.
It's called registration. You check off someone's name when they come in the ballot.
And we already do cross references.
Correct.
Like we have very complex both electronic and physical systems that verify that the same person. People have social security numbers. This can be verified. Oh, you have the same fucking social security number voting in 2 states, the same person with the same birth date. Look into it. But as it turns out, it just never fucking happens. And when it does, we catch it almost every single time. I mean, there was an example, like I did a stream like 2 weeks ago where we just looked into, I just picked a whole bunch of random voter fraud allegations that had been chucked. And I was just like, you know what? I have a bet about this. We're going to go read the articles about this and we're going to find out whether they were caught or not. In fact, it yielded a really funny clip in which somebody was like, oh, well, you know, they still faked the votes. That's the problem. Like, okay, hold on a second. And I pull up a MS Paint on my computer and I drew a $20 bill with a stick figure on it. I'm like, there, I counterfeited money. I guess the fact that I can counterfeit money is a problem. No, it matters whether people can get away with it. Anybody could make a fake ballot that's drawn in crayon and says 10 votes X Biden. And nobody's going to take that seriously because we have ways to actually verify these things.
And it's not effective. It's not effective, right? So the larger the conspiracy is, the easier it is to find out because more people are agreeing. They're going to be more loose ends. And the smaller the conspiracy is, the dramatically less likely it is to ever affect anything.
True.
So I think something almost unique to the U.S., or at least more relevant to the U.S. than a lot of other places, is that the mindset is don't trust the government no matter who is in power. Nobody is truly looking out for you at any sort of the sense. I think everybody has some sort of thing in their head for that. The Republican Party is very good at focusing in on that and showing that they're not looking out for you. They're just career politicians, which, by the way, it's seeming like that is a terrible thing to be. But if you are somebody that actually does care about the greater people that you live around, on a federal or state level, is not a bad thing. The whole career politician thing needs to not be demonized at that sense. But then you also have them going on just like the government is never looking out for you. There are so many people that say, I'm getting fucked by the government no matter what. It turns out that most of the people that actually are getting fucked by the government no matter what aren't the ones saying that all the time. They're the ones actually actively going and trying to vote and trying to vote for their best interests. And there's this very confused narrative of like Schrodinger's nanny state that's going on right now. And we need to try to figure out how to retool that in terms of putting trust in like whoever we elect, because eventually it's pretty much like electing the person that you are going to say is a shitbag in the next 6 months. I don't know. It's
a tough question to grapple with, because what we're essentially and this is something that I've brought up on my own stream over the last couple of weeks specifically, but also I've been talking about this actually since I literally started streaming, which is that we're grappling with a very unique problem, which is how do we counter a legitimacy crisis that is being propagated by the president of the United States, who is the head of state. And the answer that I seem to keep coming to, and the one that is very concerning and can sometimes perhaps be a little bit doomery, is that you can't. We don't have, there's no, when the head of state is declaring the country no longer legitimate, well, we're in a weird state, aren't we? We're in a very strange time in which the current head of state is declaring the government of the US illegitimate in one way or another. And all we really can do at this moment, besides talking about this and hoping to propagate ideas and take care of one another, is actually like wait and see how far he's willing to take this and what other people are going to come up. Because as it stands right now, we have two leaders with legitimacy claims. We have a Joe Biden who has a popular mandate, and we have Donald Trump, who does not have a popular mandate but has an enormous contingent of supporters and claims to have, I don't know.
It's almost like if I was to guess, like why Trump's small pool of gators seems to be more affected than Biden's like much larger pool of voters, I would say that it's like the Trump has been able to engage his voters. Like if you look at those, one of the other allegations of fraud was about the fact that you could find ballots which had Biden checked but nothing down ballot. They didn't vote for shit down ballot, and that's a problem. That like we've got a lot of Democrats that are like, yeah, I want to get rid of Orange Man, but like they don't have time to look at their Senate races, their Congress races, their local stuff. They're not really checking on. All they're doing is making sure like, yeah, get rid of Trump. And whereas Trump's people, you know, they I don't know if they, you know, just mark it all Republican, probably because they, you know, but they do end up voting down ballot, and they did end up voting this time, and that's why likely Joe Biden is still going to have to contend with Mitch McConnell, although we're still crossing our fingers. Stacey Abrams did amazing work in Georgia, you know, this time around to get out the vote, and there's some chance that she could kind of flip the scores of those Senate races. But what happened in both of those Senate races in Georgia is we had two conservative candidates running, and it's the first past the polls. So the Democrat and one of the conservatives were first two. So we eliminate the conservative candidate down here, and now we've got a rematch. But now all the people that voted for this other conservative candidate ostensibly are going to vote for the one that's still there. So it's going to be a very uphill battle.
Yeah,
So,
it's uphill. I have to make my.
Oh yeah, I wanted to say Pisco's got to go. I'm sorry, I meant to give you an exit there.
I'm gonna go eat dinner with my family. This has been a lot of fun to deep dive this. I don't think it was just a circle jerk, because I think that there were sort of a lot of discussions of things that I didn't know about and more informative. It wasn't sort of I think
it was more of a sharing. Yeah, we all have different pieces, and yeah.
But thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk. It's been great. I think the people you brought on are very learned about what they talk about, and I would appreciate the opportunity to talk with everyone here again.
Yeah, good stuff as always, Pisco. Everybody make sure to check out Pisco on Twitch. Anything else you want to say about you know, what you got in the works, what you're up to?
Can I ask you one question before we go? Just like for 2 minutes. Just to elaborate on what DemonMama is saying, I had kind of a speculation on this. You are what I would consider the lawman here. So what I would say is that when DemonMama was talking about what the president has been doing, do you see this as a way of kind of testing what laws are actually laws in the sense of enforceability, or who is willing to enforce them? Because it seems to be constantly testing the water of where we can go with this, where there's no precedent for it because people thought, oh, nobody is actually they thought that there would be some consequences, but it seems like a whole rolling down of, wait a minute, there might not actually be consequences if I can just convince enough people that there aren't.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. To the extent that DemonMama said that, yeah, I think that's true. I mean, Trump argued in court that he was immune from criminal process, which means he's immune from even having subpoenas on information that could relate. So in other words, saying he's immune from even investigation for criminal process.
Yeah, it's almost like the misattributed Nixon quote from the Frost Nixon movie, which like he didn't exactly say what he said in the movie, but you know, it's kind of a reduction of.
Trump has said publicly, openly, multiple times, like, Article 2. There's this little thing called Article 2, which lets me do anything I want, which of course Article 2 doesn't do. So yeah, I think he stretches the limits of everything that can be can be done and what he can get away with it. He stretches the limits of legal principles all the time, including recently in the Affordable Care Act case. I think stretching definitions both of standing and of severability to extreme length to just try to, I guess, just to take away healthcare from millions of people. So yeah, I think that's right. He's pushed on things we haven't seen pushed before, and we'll see it with this election. I happen to think he doesn't have a chance really of being president in January. I think this is mostly, as a nocommentchick has suggested, a PR tactic to raise money, and to maintain a stranglehold on his base, and to sort of also on the Republican Party. So that's what I think he's doing. I think he'll stretch the laws and whatever he can to break precedent and get there.
Pisco, I want to let you go for sure, but any predictions as far as a future legal trouble for Trump, like the Southern District of New York, you know, some of those cases that might come up now that when he's not president?
Here's a prediction that you can take to the bank. I think he's going to pardon himself. So that would, in some sense, give him, I don't know with respect to what, but potentially blanket immunity for any of the federal crimes he did. And so I think that he's going to do that. So
pardon himself or have Pence do it.
I don't know if he can. Well, we don't know. So this goes to what Rumor just asked, which is, will he stretch the limits of power in ways that's never been done before? The answer is yes. I don't think anyone has ever considered pardoning themselves. And the basic truism of American law and justice is you can't be an arbiter in your own case.
No one is above the law. Yeah.
Correct. So I think it's extremely likely he'll pardon himself. And if his advisors say he can't pardon himself, I think it's extremely likely he'll, if that's the case, he'll hand the presidency over to Mike Pence to get a pardon.
He'll do a little trust fall with Mike. Yeah. See how that works out.
Precisely. I think it's that important to him, I suspect, to get a pardon, federal pardon. But that doesn't save him from civil suit, which I think will be coming in multitudes and are coming and are here. And it doesn't save him from state prosecution. So I think I would be looking at Cy Vance and the Manhattan District Attorney and expect some things there with respect to taxing and other kinds of fraud.
Nice.
Pisco, before you go.
Oh my God.
Make a YouTube channel tonight. And instead of doing, and here's my advice to you, unless you're really married to the Pisco95 brand, go Pisco Real or Real Pisco, okay?
Real Pisco?
Do it tonight.
Okay.
Do it.
You're getting some real advice here. Yeah.
All right, I'll do it tonight.
Nice.
All right, thank you, everybody. Much love. See you all soon, okay?
Much love, Pisco. Thank you for being here again.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah. Thanks, everybody. So we're kind of, what time is it now? 3:37. It's okay to do. So here's the deal. I don't know if people know this, but Bird Brains, I've kind of joked around about calling it a podcast for a long time. It's actually going to become a podcast for real, thanks to our mod academic anarchist doing all the drudgery of audio editing for me. So there's going to be an audio version of this too, available on Stitcher and Spotify and all that kinds of stuff. So what we're going to do now is there's going to be a part of the show that's only available on that's not going to be on Twitch to make you kind of chase after it. This is like the golden ring that you have to catch. If you're like a true fan, you'll catch it. There's no like, you don't have to pay for Patreon or anything like that. It's not behind a paywall or anything. You just have to go to a different platform if you want to get it. But so we're gonna raid out now, and if the two of you are game, don't feel any there's nothing like just like the Inspector General. I'm not holding a gun to your head here. Do what you want. If you need to tell me to fuck off, that's fine too. No, you won't be telling me to fuck off.
I gotta go do some other content.
You are busy. Okay. So I'm gonna take.
I appreciate the invite.
Yeah. So we're gonna RumourFlies. Have you got a little bit more time for some extra show?
Yeah, I could throw about 20 at this if you're good with that.
That's a good idea. Yeah, because you actually did have a lot of deep dive stuff. You did a lot of research for the stream, and I want to make sure you get a chance to. Yeah. And thank you so much for being here again, DemonMama. It's always lovely to talk to you. When I knew what I was doing for this, I was like, I gotta have DemonMama. So I'm so glad that you answered the call and you were here to get in. As always, based fucking takes. We love DemonMama.
That's what I try to. I try to bring the best takes that I can. This is something that I've been covering. This has been like, I didn't really mean for it to be this way, but it's kind of become my beat on Twitch, at least. So
you've been covering the USPS thing for like longer than anybody I know, and you've anytime I've been missing information on it, you've supplied that. So I wanted to thank you for that contribution. And it really is the USPS that came through for us, right? The Inspector General did their job, to kind of. I mean, it's not like this affidavit was going to do anything either, but a lot of they did things to make sure the ballots got there on time.
The USPS, the employees of the USPS have been going and the union, the postal workers union have been going like overboard to try and counteract what Donald Trump has very obviously been doing, which is sabotaging the USPS. Like there's no doubt about that. That was DeJoy and Trump's goal. But the workers of the USPS have seriously done their best to counteract that, and they've had some success because, I mean, for sure, I don't think election night went the way that Donald Trump was hoping that it would go.
Yeah.
For sure.
They pulled some strings. They pulled some strings to make those to make the ballots kind of. They basically, from what I understand, they basically expedited the ballots in some cases just because they'd had so much taken out of them to try to make the ballots slower. They you know, so they figured out ways around that, and they like you said, DemonMama, the union, the people working there, definitely not the Trump appointed people is who I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the real heart and soul of the U.S. Postal Service, which we hope will not get, you know, taken down and you know, privatized or whatever the hell the Republicans wanted to do with it. But yeah, DemonMama, anything else about what you got going on? What you you know, your website's down for now, right? But it's going to be back up soon.
Website is currently experiencing some issues. I am streaming on YouTube at the moment. I'm going to be streaming for a bit longer. However, the real big announcement is that the reason that I'm streaming on YouTube is because I have a big event coming up in the near future. So if you're interested on a, let's just say, very high profile, very fun, sus stream, you should come check out my YouTube channel. You should come join my Discord. My Discord is where you can keep up with everything I do. And you can get there by going to DemonMama.com. It's that simple, DemonMama.com. And if you go to DemonMama.com, you will find all of my links. You can come hang out with us. My community is fantastic. We would love to have you. And yeah,
nice. So it bounces right to the Discord now. That's really good to know. Yeah, no, and that's definitely the best place to keep up with. You know, if you're having website
my site
issues.
is obviously the one-stop shop. You can see, like, on my site, there's like a feed of my Twitter activity. There's a feed of when I'm live. There's a feed of what I'm doing on Discord. But the Discord is where, like, I connect. That's where I send out all my announcements, where everybody can know, and you can get all of my other links from my website. So yeah. Hell yeah, the website's where to go, and then the Discord's where to connect. So yeah,
nice.
Other than that, that's about it. It was really wonderful talking with you, RumourFlies. I've not had the opportunity to talk with you, but if you ever want to do anything in the future, let me know. I'd love to talk with you again.
Absolutely. I think if you don't get me Fridays around 3 p.m. CST, you should be good to not have, like, my ISP try to sabotage me. Or the deep state, like I said.
Yeah.
But very nice meeting you. It's been great.
Yeah, good to talk to you as always, DemonMama. And RumourFlies, let's get you. I mean, we went over a little bit of you know, who you are on Twitch, what you're doing, where people can find you. Let me get back into the scene where people can actually see me. There I am. Boom. We're both here. So yeah, anything else you want to say? You know, talk about, like, you know, things you got in the works, or even just like kind of the research that you do on a daily basis, and, you know, your areas of expertise. And you were talking about a podcast, like RumourFlies podcast, right?
Yes. We've been doing that for about since 2016 or so. Right when shit started getting crazy. It's RumourFlies podcast. You can find it on any platform if you want to. That's primarily where most of our content is. We're starting to do Twitch more when I can actually stream. It happens, but you know. But yeah, so lately, once again, if you want a little snapshot of what it is, pretty much we'll talk about anything from Disney rumors to is Walt Disney's head on the bottom of Epcot or whatever like that to is margarine good for you? The answer is no. It killed a lot of Americans through heart disease, and that's why it's the second leading killer in the United States, if not the first by now. It might be COVID this year at least.
Wait, margarine or heart disease?
Heart disease from
trans fats?
From trans fats.
Yeah, they thought that because they could get away from the saturated fat, that they could improve the health profile, and they found a fat that's even worse. So yeah, they got into that. That's cool. So like we overlap on nutrition a little bit too. Yeah. It sounds like, yeah. I bet that was my undergrad was in nutrition and exercise science. So.
Ooh, I should have you on sometime to talk about that.
It'd be fun. I love to nerd out on nutrition. I haven't gotten to do it. I was actually thinking that's what I would do on, you know, in terms of making content. I was really thinking, you know, nutrition, health, that kind of stuff. I probably still will, because that's where my, you know, that's where my schooling lies in terms of, like, you know, medical and nutrition and exercise and just like all kinds of ways to live like a better life for yourself and so forth. But yeah,
our current focus right now is I guess me the first time saying it, I'm starting a website right now to give a comprehensive but very easy to digest breakdown of how the COVID-19 vaccine is going to work. If it's the candidate I think it's going to be, it's pretty much 90% going to be the Pfizer one, but we have a lot of information on that along with a giant document, which I'm going to post in your chat once again.
Nice.
About
in the stream chat.
Yeah, in the stream chat. Yeah, so there it is. If you need anything, if there's anybody that's vaccine hesitant, you can talk to me. It's RumourFlies. It's on Twitch, I have a pretty active Twitter account. You can email us, RumourFliesPodcast.com. But long story short is just that we're currently trying to educate people as much as possible to end a pandemic and get back to being able to make stupid decisions without killing grandma. So
it sounds good.
Yeah, once again, I'm just as fed up with this as everybody else, but it doesn't mean it's over. That's what the situation is right now, and that's what we're dealing with. We're trying to educate. We're trying to at least get ahead of all the misinfo that's going to be coming out. Because once again, I said we've talked about QAnon a lot, which unfortunately they're going to give up Q and then move on to the anti-vax thing. It's a giant katamari of conspiracy theories.
Yeah, the Save the Children and all the other stuff that they got their hands in.
But if you have an episode that you like to listen to, if you want to listen to a non-serious one, we just released an animals episode, which is completely non-consequential in terms of like making you feel like you're going crazy. If you want our more serious deep dives that we're more proud of, we have stuff like our history of the anti-vax movement, two-parter. One's the whole history about how a whole lot of intersectionality came into the original anti-vax movement, and it was understandable at one point, but now it isn't. All those things that they were worried about back then are gone. You're going to be okay if you just get that little bitty poison poke, all right?
Yo, you know what? I got to tell you something, RumourFlies. I don't have time to keep up with anybody's content. So generally, like, I don't get to watch people's VODs and stuff. But the way you described what you got going on, I'm gonna have to make some time, honestly, and you should too, chat. Definitely make some time for RumourFlies and all of our lovely panelists today. Are you ever thinking about going into YouTube, or is your podcast strictly Twitch?
We have our podcast is on most podcast platforms. Like
Spotify,
so it is, iTunes,
podcast,
Podcast Addict, whatever you want. We are doing Twitch more. We have a YouTube. It hasn't been used in a while. We have 200 subscribers, just enough to get the handle. It says RumourFlies. But we will be probably uploading more content to YouTube and Twitch as we go. Probably some stream VODs, but also prepared content if we have enough time to do it, honestly. So, yeah.
Good stuff. Well, thank you as always, chat, for being here. And this VOD will actually be uploaded to YouTube as soon as I can get it edited this time, because I'm going to try to be better about actually getting the bird brains up. That's the whole purpose of my YouTube, is mainly to promote that kind of stuff for people who don't have the availability. And not to get anybody worried or anything, but there's some chance that I'm going to move the time. I've just been noticing a lot of guests can't make it. Friday's kind of a crunch day for a lot of people. And also, it's not the normal time that I stream, so I was toying around with the idea of doing a Bird Brains more in the vampire hours that I usually keep. So yeah, look forward to that possibly. Anyway, we're gonna raid out. We're gonna do the fun half. You can look for that soon. I'll let you know in the Discord. Oh my God! Anybody, before I raid out, let's put up the Discord. Anybody not in the Discord, get in there. That's how you're going to keep track of me. You can also follow my Twitter to know when things are coming up, Reddit, and definitely get in the Discord, because we're going to be making an announcement about the platforms you can find the podcast. But right now, RumourFlies and I are going to go and record maybe the last hour of today's show. And if you want to follow that, keep looking at the Discord. It'll be an announcement. So I'll make an announcement when the podcast aspect of Bird Brains goes live. So anyway, as I always say at the end of my stream, oh my God, no, wow, I'm bad at raiding. I have this thing where when I raid somebody, it's my worst typing because I'm doing it fast.
You just raided Dylan last time, I think.
Yeah, just Dylan. Was it just Dylan? It wasn't even Dylan Burns. It was just I thought that Dylan's name was Dylan, and that there was no more to it than that. Yeah. This time we're rating Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny's name's a little bit harder to screw up. Bad Bunny's got pretty good branding. She's not Bad Bunny 95 or Bad Bunny, 92 or whatever. She's just Bad Bunny, and you can't mess that one up. But yeah, as I always say at the end of the stream, fly, my pretties. And say hi to Bad Bunny for me. Yeah, seriously, I won't have time to be in the raid and stuff, but because we're gonna go record something. But yeah, give Nicole my love, okay? And there we are, we're rated out, so now it's just you and me. And so what I have to do now is I'm gonna, oh wow, we rated in 30 people. Yeah, that was a weird show. I didn't promote that shit at all, and it showed in terms of the numbers. That's the other reason I'm thinking about moving the times. So let's see, refresh chat, and then I'm gonna oh yeah, for the VOD people, hey, you're still here, what's up? Yeah, well, so this is your goodbye too. I don't have a lot more to say to you, but I always like to say something to you. So yeah, don't take any wooden nickels. There we go, that's my advice for today. All right, VOD people, good to see you again, as always.